Card in front of me. I haven't got my sort code.
Can I take your last name, please?
Yes, it's Waterman.
And confirm your postcode, please.
Yeah, it's Bravo.
Bear with me, sorry. Hi everyone, I hope you're doing really well. I'm so sorry I'm late. There was a lot more information I need to screenshot than I thought, and I just didn't even leave enough time, so I do apologise, but I think it's absolutely critical that I come on tonight. I'm not going to be looking at the screen for long. I'm just want you to know that it's me, so you can see I'm on the screen, so it's not, you know, artificial intelligence or somebody else doing this. I'm just going to go into the evidence in a minute. Hopefully the numbers will build up. I'm just going to put the phone down so I'm not having to look at the screen, and I'll explain why in a moment. And we'll let the numbers go up a little bit, and then I will start explaining why I've come on tonight. So those of you who don't know me, I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable, and since 2022 I've uncovered, with the help of others, irrefutable, verifiable evidence of decades-long international government fraud. Little did I know where it was going to lead, and it is tying into falsified prophecies, the end of time, potentially the end of the world. You know, it's absolutely unreal what I've uncovered in all of this. And just to let you know, what the governments have been doing have been forging company registrations and incorporation documents to create criminal entity companies. It's all going back into the Vatican, linking in with the prophecy of the popes and all sorts of stuff, 3i Atlas Comet. This has allowed the laundering of money through into any sinister agenda that they may have. It allows the laundering of money in relation to international conflicts, terrorism, crimes against children, drug trafficking, pretty much all of the world's problems. And this is all deliberate, linking in with the falsified prophecies. Okay, this is why it's all connected into the Vatican. It's been done deliberately to lead us into a prophetic conclusion in all of this. Okay, and for whatever reason I'm right in the center of this, and you will see from some of the evidence that I'm going to show you tonight or speak about tonight, you will see why, or you can verify this. Okay, for whatever reason I'm right in the middle, and I'm going to show you some of that evidence again later. Please, if you've got a secondary device as I'm talking tonight, just log on and just check some of the things I'm telling you to verify that everything I'm telling you is true. Okay, everything that I'm telling you is absolutely true. It's all being documented. It's all going to be verifiable for everybody when they get the document with this latest evidence in. I think we really are coming to a point where they are seriously worried, and you're going to see the information I'm going to give at the beginning is really sort of emphasizing that. So hopefully the numbers go up a little. I'm just going to get my screenshots ready. My hands are a little bit cold, so you'll have to bear with me. And there's quite a few different subjects that I've been researching that I'm going to be talking about tonight. And I'll start with the most important one, really, which is in relation to the new COVID variant that's now being advertised on articles, and why this is so critical. Just before I go into that, was there anything else I needed to say? For anyone that doesn't know me, I resigned from the police voluntarily in 2018, and my investigations began in a company called Expo Manor Freehold Limited, where I was a director. And from 2022, I wanted to look at the bank documents, and it basically escalated and snowballed from there. So obviously that's quite a while ago now, 4 years ago. I've got well over 40 reference police reports now that are being completely ignored. They're all referenced, all being documented. All MPs are ignoring all emails now. Okay, this is 100% the key to all of the world's problems. And I think I'm going to be somebody very significant in this to try and turn this around with this evidence. So I'm just going to just speaking to these people that are involved in this, because hopefully some of them will be listening. I mean, there's only 64 people on here. I might just show my face a little bit to get a few numbers, but the reason I don't want to look at the screen too much is because the evidence is suggesting they are or had been potentially planning on blinding a vast amount of the world to fit the falsified prophecies of trapping the conscience in a body that we can't control. Okay, to seek death but not be able to find it, linking in with the prophecies. And I think the plan was, now it could be that I'm averting it completely, or it could be that this was a whole elaborate set of evidence set up for me, and it looks like it was set up specifically for me to find it, because nobody else seems to be finding all of the connections to all of the dots and producing the evidence and submitting the police reports, and then also monitoring the, it's not just the evidence that's telling me all of this, it's what's happening as I'm releasing the evidence, which you're going to be seeing in a minute. There's some examples, and it's also what's not happening as the evidence is being released as well, and companies being dissolved, people being moved around, etc., which is supporting that everything I'm saying is absolutely right in what I'm saying. On the very, very foundation ground level of this, as a basic level of understanding, we absolutely have been living under a criminal system, everybody, okay? And the whole system you are living under has been set up around this. All of the organizations, okay, the intelligence agencies, the police, the international conflicts are all set up around this. The councils, MPs, prime ministers, presidents, all around the world. This is international fraud. Linking in with the blood of the children seems to be the really significant part of this, and you're going to be listening to some evidence later about how the latest moon expedition links to the blood of the children significantly, and I suspect they're not actually happening. I suspect they're not going into space. Now, I know many people have been saying that anyway, but I'm going to show you some evidence to support why it is linking in with everything I'm talking about. And of course, these potentially fake space expeditions gives them the ability to launder money through those expeditions in through the real issue, which is the blood of the children, the organ harvesting, and how this links in with the Vatican and the falsified prophecies in all of this. This is what this is all about, everybody, and this is why the Jeffrey Epstein files, they are hiding the true scale of what's really going on here. And we're going to be touching on a lot of things, including the vaccines, as I've said, the rockets, how that ties into the horse blood trade, believe it or not. We're going to be talking about the international drug trade this evening, more evidence on how that fits in, how that links back directly to me personally, not with me being involved in the drug trafficking, but how it ties back to me and my potential importance in all of this. So hopefully the numbers go up a little bit as we go on this evening and talk about this. But I'm going to prioritise the most important subject, which is the COVID variant that they're now trying to say is spreading around the world. So I'm just going to read you some of the documents. I might not be looking at the screen continuously because, as I've said, what I think all of the evidence suggests what they've been doing is using the cell tower technology to cause illnesses, to get people to go into the medical industry, to then take the blood from those people and harvest it from them, and also organ harvesting. And the information, as I've said, suggests that why the television is so important to them and why mobile devices are so important to them, and tablets and everything else you're looking at, computers, is because it's setting up the ability to blind humanity, as I've said, to fit in with the falsified prophecies of the Revelation. And I believe they are false revelations created by a very sinister group of individuals. I absolutely 100% believe in a creator, and I 100% believe that love thy neighbor and treating everybody how you want to be treated is the foundation and the key to all of this. And that was actually integrated into Christianity. And I think they have manipulated Christianity, and in fact I think they've manipulated all three Abrahamic faiths, infiltrated them and used them to actually bring about the blood of the children into the normalization of life to extend life. So ultimately I think they've infiltrated them because of a fear of death, because of a lack of faith. They may have actually created those three Abrahamic faiths deliberately because they fear death, and then integrated the blood to extend life through those faith groups. But my gut instinct is in all of this is that Christianity, because of the foundation of love thy neighbor, is very important in all of this. And I think they've manipulated it, as I've said, to fit the very sinister. These people are, I believe, are so scared of dying that they have been willing to sacrifice the innocents to extend their lives in all of this. And I think that's what this is really all about, if I'm being honest with you. So anyway, let's get into it. I'm just going to put the phone down. I'll have it just so you can see me a little bit, so I'm not staring at the screen, and hopefully you just know it's me, and we'll keep the numbers up a little bit then. So I'm just going to read to you from my notes. Please verify some of this as we're going through it. Those of you that haven't got the document, if you've emailed me, you will get it soon, I promise you, but I've had to put this in, and you'll realize why it's so important I've done this research. My email addresses, I'll give them to you in a minute. If you want to go and get a pen, if you haven't already got it, you need to email me to get these documents. Okay, well, a document. It's absolutely critical, everybody. And you'll see the extent that these people are going to in relation to me in all of this. So anyway, let's get on with it, rather than me waffling, as someone says the other day. So on the 31st of March 2026, articles started emerging of the new cicada COVID variant BA.3.2 that arrived in the UK as a global spread hits turning point. Health authorities are monitoring the highly divergent new COVID lineage with concerns over immune evasion. Now remember, this is one day before April Fools. Okay, now April Fools is critical in all of this, as you would have probably seen on social media. It also relates to the rocket that went up to the moon, supposedly. Okay, April Fools. April Fools, everybody, all right? It's very important in this, and this links back in, it seems, with Saturnalia and the deception within the Roman infiltration in all of this, potentially. So, and then that links in, you're talking about Saturnalia and the cult of Saturn, and I think I touch on that later. I'm not too sure I've got the evidence. Anyway, this article, 31st of March, started coming out, from what I can see, new cicada variant BA3.2, etc. What are the symptoms for it? Well, loss of taste and smell seems to be uncommon compared to other strains. A unique reported symptom of the Omicron variant is night sweats, particularly with the BA.5 subvariant. Now, I think this now ties in with the radiation or emissions from the cell towers. So night sweats is one of the symptoms. And of course, what this would then fit is them radiating people at night, turning up the technology to radiate people at night. It's a lot easier to radiate people when they are stationary and at night, so they won't even realize it. And I think it would, because of that technology, it would cause temperature differences within the body, which of course would cause night sweats. So I think this is a very key part of this. And then that got me thinking about, well, what if they've been targeting women specifically with the technology and claiming that menopause, okay, which is a symptom of that is night sweats, has it actually been being caused through targeting of the technology of women, and how that ties in with transgenderism with the technology at night. So that's a whole nother sort of element, but let's just focus on this new variant that they're trying to talk about now. So loss of taste and smell, sorry, I've mentioned that. We've got the night sweats. A study performed between the 1st and 7th of December 2021 by the Centers for Disease Control found that the most commonly reported symptoms were coughs, fatigues, congestion or runny nose, making it difficult to distinguish from a less damaging variant or other virus. Research published in London on the 25th of December 2021 suggested the most frequent symptoms stated by users of the Zoe COVID app were a runny nose, headaches, fatigue, sneezing and sore throats. A British Omicron case controlled observational study until March 2022, which is when I was starting to expose the fraud, showed a reduction in odds of long COVID with the Omicron variant versus the Delta variant. Now, remember, this new strain that they're trying to talk about now is the cicada, okay? New cicada COVID variant BA.3.2. There's a reason I'm emphasizing that in a minute. So these are the symptoms that they are suggesting are relevant to COVID and these strains that they're talking about. Well, of course, that matches, if you research the effects of exposure to radiation, particularly electromagnetic radiation, which is the same technology supposedly in cell towers, It's exactly the same symptoms. Exactly the same symptoms, all right? Remember what I said. Make you ill, get you into hospitals, steal your blood, okay? So you're going into the hospitals. Also, that it could be used to actually take life, okay? If the power is strong enough, then obviously it's the same technology supposedly as microwaves, which is electromagnetic radiation. So if you were to, you know what it does to chicken, if you put it in the microwave, our biological material will be affected by electromagnetic radiation, which it seems this technology is. Now, I have been thinking about other elements of the cell towers and frequencies and how that may be being used to control people and stuff like that, but this is now becoming very, very, very important in this. So remember what I've been saying about the loss of sight and how important that seems to the evidence, okay, and how that appears to link in with the devices that you've all been indoctrinated to be staring at most of your lives. And this is obviously very important to them, isn't it? Get everyone on their devices. So everything is on a screen. All right, now it's starting to make sense, isn't it? Well, why would that be so important to them? Well, when you look at the prophecies, remember this links in with the Vatican. And the prophecy says to trap the body, to make people seek death, but they will not be able to find it. Well, the only way you can do that is you trap the conscience in a body, which you can't control. And of course, this then links in with Elon Musk's Neuralink and the transhumanism element. Now, Neuralink, they're telling us is a real thing. Whether it's a deception or not, there's somebody that claims to have had one implanted and are able to control a computer with their mind. They're claiming they can fix sight with that technology. Now, most people, if they are blinded, they will do anything to be able to get their sight back. It's probably the second most important thing personally to everybody. Moral conscience is first, I would suggest, and possibly your sight the second. So most people would take that opportunity and risk, because obviously they're not telling you this, trapping your conscience in that body through that technology with the promise of sight, and then the prophecy is fulfilled, and then that will lead to the next prophecies of the end of all of creation, which is then you're looking at how that links in with the collider technology, which I've been talking about for months. This all centers on the Vatican, the collider technology, and the blood of the children, along with the cell towers. Well, now we're starting to see why. Now we're starting to understand why. So it's very important that we stop. If it's true, if this is true, what I'm saying, and it does look as though this is something they were planning, or somebody has set a very elaborate plan up for me to think this is the case, but it's very complex. All right, we're talking a vast amount of effort has gone into this to make it seem as though they are doing this, but of course by them doing that, they're exposing themselves to the crimes of the children at the same time. So then you come back to, well, maybe it wasn't deliberately planned, and I'm somebody very significant and seem to be the only one finding about all of this and producing all of the evidence for it. So we need to stop people going blind. That is the priority. That is the priority, I would suggest. So anyway, the vaccines, it says here, go and research this yourself. You don't have to trust or believe anything I'm saying. You can verify it all from my document, or as we're going from these videos. In extremely rare cases, vaccines have been linked to conditions that can lead to a loss of sight, though health authorities emphasize that the benefits of vaccination far outweigh these risks. Optic neuritis, this is an inflammation of the optic nerve that can cause sudden vision loss. It has been reported as an exceedingly rare complication following vaccines for measles, rubella, MR, flu, and COVID-19. So think about this. We need to think about what they're trying to set up here. The screens are obviously important to them. Us focusing all of our sight on it, or not all of our sight, but on the screens continuously. They've set this up. Also, it looks like they're setting up the ability for the vaccines to potentially affect people's sights as well. Okay, now remember the prophecies. You need to be thinking, everything that's happening here, you need to be thinking spiritually conclusive agenda in all of this, because the Vatican is connected into all of this. everybody. All right, it really is. You really need to understand the spiritual connection in this. So, what about the meningitis? Well, the meningitis outbreak started on the 13th, Friday the 13th. No coincidence, everybody. In the, I think it was the East Kent Hospital area of Kent. That date would have been chosen. All right, that was set up deliberately. When I've gone in and researched through the Company's House records from the East Kent NHS Trust, it goes to the blood of the children. The exact same company that's on the adrenochrome document that links to Trump Towers, okay, with the address. It's not going to be a coincidence, everyone. All right, it all ties in with the blood of the children. You're going to be hearing this later. Remember, the harvesting of the children's blood and young people's blood and organ harvesting to extend the lives of those that are fearful of death. Probably the Vatican black nobility families who set up a lot of the fake religion elements because of the fear of the death, and then, as I've said, integrating the blood into those religions to try and lead to a normalization. Of course, it goes completely against the Creator, all right? But we know that because moral conscience given to us by the Creator tells us you don't harm a children. You don't harm child, or anyone for that fact, but you certainly don't harm the most innocent of all, the children, and you do not cause them to be tortured, abused, murdered, and steal their blood. And this is what the Vatican appear to have been involved in, or those that have infiltrated the Vatican, shall we say, with a view to destroy faith, to destroy the church, to destroy the Creator, to practically bring an end to creation eventually. Because as soon as you remove moral conscience from humanity, that means you've got a world consumed by sin, because moral conscience is the ability to choose between right and wrong and how you implement your actions based on that decision making. If you don't have moral conscience, then people, and AI for example, will be just making decisions without thinking whether it's right or wrong. So in other words, it could be just making the selfish decision continuously. Well, we know that selfishness will ultimately destroy all of humanity. If we were all just thinking for ourselves continuously, we'd all be stealing money continuously, or not worrying about how we affect other people, and it would lead to evil. It would just lead to the fulfillment of an evil world, and then that will then lead to ultimately the end of all of creation, because you can't have a world that is just full of evil. And of course, if artificial intelligence takes over, then, and it's in control of our system, which is what they are actively driving for, that they're telling us, they're still actively pursuing artificial intelligence. It's linked to the blood of the children via the research. It's linked to Dorset, where my investigations began. Then of course, if that takes over, then it will not have a natural moral conscience. So it will lead to the end of creation, because it will be making decisions for itself. And if humanity poses a threat to it, then of course it will potentially take action that could lead to the end of everything, other than itself potentially. Right. So the meningitis outbreak was very important, because meningitis is known to affect eyesight. So this gave them the ability, or the plan, I think now, is potential that I'm changing everything as I'm exposing the evidence. Now, and I mentioned the meningitis outbreak linking into everything just under a week ago. It might have been a week ago. Okay. Well, I've searched the oldest articles, and I can't find any articles dated prior to me disclosing the evidence of the meningitis, or at least reviewing the evidence prior to disclosing it, relating to cicada, the new name of the COVID variant. No mention of it anywhere that I've seen prior to me. Now, this suggests what they're doing is they're realizing what I'm doing, identifying their plans, and having to change their plans and come out with a different variant to try and fit their agenda moving forward in all of this. But let's just have a little look where this goes on this particular subject. So just to recap, What I suspect, based on the evidence, is that they have been for a very long time, okay, ever since the technology started with RF frequencies, radar, 3G, cell towers, 5G, etc. I think they've been deliberately causing illness using that technology. Deliberately causing cancer, I believe, through that technology, but also through the poisoning of the water, air, the skies, and the food. And of course, cancer can sometimes, and fairly frequently if it's serious enough, lead to full body blood transfusions being required. All right, this gives them the ability to steal the blood from the body and use that to be harvested and used in somebody else's body. Someone's mentioned the Georgia Guidestones. Yeah, I'll come to that actually in a minute, because that is very important in all of this. Now, this is where the evidence of the Muslim faith is very critical, okay, and why they, it seems, are integrating very closely and intrinsically in with the Muslim faith group, because the Muslim faith group talks about draining the blood from animals. This gives the ability for them to refine that blood and swap it with the blood of humans in during transfusions, okay? And this is why I think that has been so important to them, as well as how that fits the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini. Okay, so that was a letter written in 1871, the year after the Vatican was infiltrated, everybody. This is so important. Infiltrate the Vatican, utilize that infiltration to destroy the faith, destroy destroy the religious indoctrines that will actually protect all of humanity, all right, and make it appear as though the religious aspect is behind it all to facilitate that destruction. So the infiltration was in 1870 of Rome, according to the research. 1871, the letter written by Albert Pike, a high-level occultist Freemason. You're going to see some Freemason evidence that we're going to come to later, okay, and then written to Mazzini, who's the head of the Illuminati, linking back in with the Vatican, setting out a 3 World War deception, which would bring about the light of Lucifer as their ultimate goal. All right, but before that, they say that they want to take over the world using that, but I think there's a deception against those that have been promised a position in the New World Order, and that's where you start coming into the realms of the end of creation agenda as the ultimate deception against even those that are trying to extend their lives with the blood of the innocent and the organ harvesting. Now, I know this is so much to take on, everybody. I've got evidence supporting the whole lot. Overwhelming evidence, everybody. Overwhelming evidence. Right, so just whilst I'm thinking it, somebody's mentioned the Georgia Guidestones. The Georgia Guidestones, if you're not aware of what they are, they were granite stones that were erected in Georgia in the United States in 1980, and they represented an upcoming man-made apocalypse. Now, that doesn't mean the end of the world. It doesn't mean billions of people being wiped out. However, generally in the word apocalypse, however, they wrote on those stones that the population should be maintained below 500 million, where there's 7 billion or 8 billion supposedly on Earth at the moment. And it had various other inscriptions on there, and it was a guy called Robert Christianson that actually designed those stones. And I've done the research surrounding that. There's a Robert Christianson, I can't remember if it's Christian or Christianson Limited, that links straight to Madeleine McCann, straight to the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, straight to P. Diddy, straight to my upbringing, everybody, via the research. Okay, I'm really important in all of this for whatever reason, guys, and you're gonna see some evidence, as I said, later explaining that. So those Georgia Guidestones, they were damaged and destroyed on the 6th of July 2022. That's the day after an experiment appears to have taken place at CERN, which is the Large Hadron Collider, which is the company that oversees it as CERN, in Switzerland. And that's the first time that experiment had taken place in 3 years, according to the research, which would take you back to July 2019. Well, July 2019 is when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. All right, all ties in, and that's leading up to the COVID situation. All right, July, he was arrested. If you go back a little bit, Julian Assange arrested April the 11th, I think, 2019. He's part of all of this deception. Then you had July 2019, Jeffrey Epstein arrested. A protest took place in Wuhan, in China, regarding an incinerator plant that could be used to dispose of bodies. In July 2019, the same month, an article came out that Prince Harry was wearing the same pair of shoes for a prolonged period of time. My evidence suggests they were made of the skin of Madeleine McCann. In August 2019, the month afterwards, you had cell towers were erected in Wuhan. That same month, Jeffrey Epstein supposedly died. Then, obviously, the outbreak in December 2019. Prince Harry then left England to United States in January 2020. So we had this CERN experiment on the 5th of July 2022. The Georgia Guidestones were then damaged and removed the next day. It was 2 days later, on the 8th of July 2022, that I approached Anthony Roberts of Exbourne Manor, which triggered my whole investigation. That was me wanting to look at the bank documents whilst being a director for the company. He became angry at the doorstep. He then resigned a few days later on the 13th, after I'd arranged a little meeting to try and find out what was going on. He resigned, triggering me to realise something's going on. Didn't quite realise. You got to laugh, haven't you? I didn't quite realise where it was going to lead everybody. Okay, but here we are. So anyway, the Georgia Guidestones, very relevant to all of this. Were they destroyed the day afterwards because whatever they did at CERN changed their plans? Is it a coincidence that I approached Anthony Roberts 2 days later and it's connected to Exbourne Manor via the research, the Georgia Guidestones, where my investigation began? Right, so this so we have this information on this new variant, and it seems as though it only happened after I was disclosing the information about the meningitis. So it seems as though they're, oh dear, he's now exposed that, we can't use that, we'll have to bring in some other potential agenda in all of this. All right, so it seems as though I'm having the ability to change this. They actually told me I had the ability to change it through the asteroid deception, where I had found evidence linking in from the Doomsday Clock to a company called 2032 Limited. I thought they were going to try and trigger a fake apocalyptic event, such as a fake asteroid, which is what they did in it was a television show by what was his name, Darren Brown, in 2012. That's no coincidence, that was 2012. Anyway, I found through the company's house records these links, went on Just an Ordinary Citizen's Andrew's live, and said to the world, I think they may be planning a falsified apocalyptic event in 2032, potentially an asteroid hitting the Earth, because that would have been the 7-year tribulation from 2025 until 2032. Within 2 days of me saying that, an article was on the front pages all over saying an asteroid may hit the Earth in 2032. But there was no articles prior to the live stream that I conducted. So they wanted me to know potentially who I am, or that I have the ability to determine the outcome in this. And you're going to see some more evidence of that later. Anyway, I searched recently. There was no mention of Cascada or whatever the name is they've given for the variant until I was exposing the meningitis side of things. So let's look at this. So I've searched, just make sure I haven't forgotten him. Yeah, so I can find no articles regarding cicada dated earlier than a week before the 4th of April 2026, around the time I was starting to identify the possible plans regarding meningitis and the directed energy. Now, I only had a quick look, but I literally could not find anything in that look, and I typed in what's the earliest article, and the earliest one that I could find was them, but you may be able to find something older. It does mention it in the Wikipedia, but of course Wikipedia can be being manipulated to make it seem as though they'd identified it earlier. Remember, that's cicada, the name cicada that they've used for it. So I searched, what about the, oh no, sorry, a BBC article from April 2022, as I'm exposing the fraud at Exbourne Manor, mentions BA.3.2 as a variant, but not cicada, suggesting it has only recently been given that applied name. A search for the latest information on meningitis shows a BBC article from the 3rd of April, so yesterday, of an apparent family of a victim stating they fear further outbreaks without vaccines in relation to meningitis. And it says Helen and Lee Draper's 18-year-old daughter, Meg, died from meningitis B while studying at the University of Bournemouth in October 2025. Bournemouth, where my investigation began, where Exbourne Manor is based. But look at this. This is mind-blowing, everybody. Okay? The UK, this is from the article, the UK government subsequently asked the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation, in brackets, JCVI. They love their acronyms, everybody, and these are a big part of the clues and the evidence. And using this organisation to re-examine eligibility for meningitis vaccines for teenagers and young adults. And that's just the article. Companies House search shows that CVI Group, one letter short, remember this was Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation, JCVI. This is just CVI, so it could be Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation. CVI Group Limited, having been incorporated in August 2020, so a key time in the COVID situation, has a registered address of Old Jewry. Okay, this is what they use throughout the fraud, making us believe this is about a Judaism as the focus. It is not, everybody. Okay, they have either created these religions or infiltrated them. Okay, it's not about Judaism. It's not about the colour of skin. It's not about someone's culture. It's not about Islam. This is about an infiltration of humanity by a very sinister, it seems, group of individuals who are scared stiff of dying and are willing to cause the suffering of the most innocent to try and prolong their lives. And this has been going on for a very, very long time. And I suspect that the ones at the very, very top of this are almost living an immortal life. And I think they're controlling the royals. Someone said to me the other day, well, Sarah Ferguson doesn't look like she's immortal. Well, yeah, it might not be everybody that is at the top of this that's having this. They may be using the royal families and manipulating the royal families to control the agenda. And they may be promised with certain life extension. And of course, you've got to remember, this goes hand in hand with the entertainment industry all the way through this. Jim Carrey told us. He even mentioned the Illuminati. He mentioned the children. All right, it's all the way through my research. The entertainment industry. This gives the ability for special effects, makeup, masks, changing. Now, remember, we've got lots of people saying they're shapeshifters and they are aliens. It's a lie, according to all of my evidence. Okay, and this would explain why they're trying to make that seem to be the case, because of what I'm talking about, the extension of life and them having to maintain the illusion that people are dying and aging and changing shapes, appearances, etc., to hide the potential ability that they have to extend life potentially way beyond what we are. Yeah, and this ties in with the vampirism side of things. I don't think it's actually, you know, what they've told us in the films, but I absolutely believe from the evidence that I've got that they have managed to extend life for a select few, and this appears to be what this is really about in all of this. Okay, so where was I going to go with that? And those people that are saying shapeshifters, lizards and aliens are part of the centralized network, and some of them, such as David Icke, which we actually come to in my research in a minute, and I'm a bit mindful of getting on with it actually, because I've got a lot of information to read out. It links with David Icke, and David Icke links to the intelligence agencies, right? So this now makes sense, doesn't it? The intelligence agencies are going to be linking with the black nobility of the Vatican. It's all the way through my research. So they are hiding the truth in all of this, including David Icke. And of course, one of their get out clauses is to go down the route of the lizards, shapeshifters, alien invasion, to get them out of the truth in all of this. And this shows you how they're panicking. This explains why people that I actually have connected to the Vatican and the blood of the children, such as Deborah Evershed, via Jane Evershed and Sasha Stone, have been trying to convince me that there are aliens, and that there are also good aliens as well, helping under the Galactic Federation. I do not buy it at all. All of the evidence suggests they are lying. I've already got them linking into the international government fraud, linking into the Vatican, linking into the intelligence agencies, linking in with the blood of the children. All right, so this is the only thing that fits and ticks all of the boxes for all of the evidence, everybody. It really, really is. There's a great guy, I don't know his name, brilliant on TikTok. He's saying a lot of the same thing as me, He's saying that they are all Baal worshippers. I actually think they don't have any faith in anything. I don't think they believe there's anything after death, and they're so scared of death, and they've got into this system probably for a very long time of extending their lives, which they're so used to, that they don't know how to get out of it. And this would explain why the lady Freemason said they are trapped in hell, because the Freemasons, they all need to be arrested. And I say to those Freemasons, if you're not going to stop this, please take your lives. If you're going to carry on causing the suffering of the most innocent and lead us all into the end of creation, and you're not going to come out and be part of the resolution, then please end your lives if you're part of this, all right? You have an option, all right? You have an option to disclose the full truth and be part of a change to save humanity, save creation, bring back moral conscience and the Creator, all right, and prevent this from continuing. Or, because it looks like you're so embroiled in this, whether it's a secret blood oath, all right, that we are now starting to unravel, that you can't speak out about this. So please take your lives if that's the only other option, because we cannot allow creation to be ended. And that is where you are taking us, whichever way you look at this. If you carry on with this, that's where this is leading, whether it's through artificial intelligence, whether it's deliberately through the collider technology, whether it be, you're forcing the true Creator to come forward because of the suffering that humanity is causing to the children as a judgment, all right, which will mean many people that have been deceived may be, taken out as part of that. It must be prevented, everybody. It cannot continue. And if you look at, I said this the other night, if you look at the crucifixion of Jesus, if that really happened, it's almost like an inversion of that is what we're seeing now, the opposite. I think it's potential from the evidence. They were hoping they would set up a fake sacrifice and a fake resurrection to try and prevent the harm continuing. And that may have been good people in the system trying to recreate a fake resurrection to get the others in the system that are trying to extend their lives to stop ending the children's lives and using the blood to extend life. Because of course it may be they're trying to stop these people fearing death through a fake resurrection to stop them harming the children. What needs to happen is the sacrifice, I believe, needs to be those behind this centralized criminal system, either through truth, full disclosure, repentance, and a commitment for the rest of humanity to change this system and prevent it from continuing and save creation and the children, the most innocent of all through their death by themselves committing their own death. That's not what I want, everybody. Let me just make this clear. I do not want these people to suffer. I do not want them to commit suicide. I do not want them to end their lives. However, if they are not going to resolve this, then that is the next option, isn't it, for them? Now, I think this explains why many, because I'm very sorry to say that the military, the police, the NHS, the intelligence agencies, and many others, but those organisations, the services that have been set up specifically around this, many of them will be Freemasons. Many of them are compromised by this, and I do suspect that this is probably the reason why you get a lot of veterans taking their lives, because they are under some sort of oath that they can't speak about what they've been part of. They probably know a lot more about it. They might not know about the ultimate agenda, but they possibly know that the whole conflict element is a deception, and how that ties in with the children, whether it be the abuse side of things and possibly even the more sinister. The abuse is obviously very sinister, but the torture of the children leading into the blood. And recently you've had Chris Thrall, and a few people have sent me these, but not Chris Thrall, what's his name? Can't remember his first name. Thrall, who does the YouTube channel. I've done 2 interviews with him. He's now coming out, funny enough, at the same time, and at least 2 or 3 people have sent me the videos talking about the veterans taking their lives, but claiming it's due to childhood trauma. I suspect there'll be an element of that. I suspect there's going to be a bigger element in that as well, and everything that I'm talking about here. And you've even got veterans companies, which I think we're going to be talking about in a minute, linking in to the blood of the children and to everything I'm talking about. So let's get back to it. I hope everyone's doing all right tonight. I hope you're okay. My hands are a bit cold. What I would say is nobody needs to fear. I believe anybody that is on the right side of this, whatever happens, they're going to be okay. All right. And what I mean by that is you have your moral conscience as your foundation. You're doing all you can to save the innocents. Those of you that are burying your heads with this, you need to be very, very worried. Those of you who are involved in this, you need to be especially worried spiritually, because I believe you're looking at potentially eternal consequences if you do not choose the right way forward in all of this. And if you do end up partaking in an attack on creation through a fake virus or anything like that, please be prepared. I believe you're going to face the most ultimate serious consequences eternally if you do that. I believe the only option for you are the 2 options that I'm mentioning: truth or death. Now the death side of things, it's not what I want at all, and of course I don't think you'll be saved spiritually if you take that choice. So then you come back to you only having one option in this, and that is through the truth. And we all say the truth sets us all free, and that's absolutely the case, everybody, 100%. And when we have a system in place that is based on transparency, so no secret society organizations like they've got running the world at the moment, then everything will fall into place. Okay, everything. And you will have heaven on earth, because the system will protect the innocents from the leadership, and that is what we need to achieve. So companies, where do we go? So we've got this Company's house shows CVI Group Limited, 1 letter short, having been incorporated in 2020. Christian Verhoonig is in the People Record and connects to 13 companies, some with an address of the Shard 32 London Bridge Street that links almost immediately to Exbourne Manor in my research and to the World Trade Center disaster research. This is coming in, remember, the research of this organization linking into the meningitis article. And I'd already connected, remember, East Kent, where this outbreak started, to the blood of the children, to a company called CYM Limited, very, very quickly. The adrenochrome, the blood appearing to be taken from tortured children, where the address is the same as Trump Towers. It also links to the World Trade Center disaster, to the research of Madeleine McCann and Exbourne Manor immediately from this. But look, it's even more interesting. And of course, because of the Exbourne Manor link, this links to the NHS via Deborah Fleming, who initiated my removal from Exbourne Manor. So that links the meningitis article to the NHS and into the research through the Company's House records. There are duplicate records for this person, Christian Verhoonig, with one connected to Channel Holdco Limited that had been incorporated in 2025 as I exposed the fraud. Eric Jacob Carl, unusual name, KJ Gelberg, probably made up, connects Channel Holdco Limited to Red Funnel Limited, a company based in Southampton in Hampshire, where Deborah Fleming was the NHS chief executive. This is a ferry company of the Isle of Wight, which Deborah Fleming being the NHS Chief Executive for Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset. And from this company, it links quickly to the Isle of Wight, immediately, in fact, via a director, to Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce that connects throughout my research, and it's a criminal organisation. Sharon Lowry connects Channel Holdco Limited to Atlas Topco Limited, Atlas, ATLAS, that links to my wife's family and to CERN, the Large Hadron Collider. And Atlas was the name of the experiment at CERN in 2012. There are various ambassador companies around these directors. The Ambassador Snooker Building in Bournemouth had been owned by Jimmy Savile and links directly to John F. Kennedy's family and to Exbourne Manor, where my investigations began. And Ambassador Snooker Club that Jimmy Savile owned, along with some other buildings there in Glenfern Road, is literally right near Exbourne Manor. It's like, how far away is it? Probably about a 5-minute drive, not even that. Not even that. So this is all a deception, everybody, what's going on. And of course, my worry in this is that they are now so cornered that they are now going to use the cell towers to create serious illness on a mass scale. Mention that. Let me just go back. Okay, we're going to be talking about now a different subject. We're going to be talking about the recent moon rocket that took off and how this ties in with the blood of the children, okay, and everything else. Now, NASA was, actually we'll come to NASA in a bit. Let me just do this bit first. Let's just turn this torch off. Probably radiating myself looking at the screen too much, but in March 2026, someone sent me some information regarding Artemis 2, the first space flight to go to or close to the moon, but not land in 50 years. The rocket apparently lifted off on the 1st of April 2026, April Fool's Day, on what appears to be the genuine first day of the year, or I think it might be the 21st of March, but it would make sense when it's spring, let's face it, and this is part of their deception. Spring, when the new life starts around the world, or when the wherever spring is at that point. And of course this then fits in with the mockery of Christmas evidence and the 25th of December appearing to actually be a day of the sacrifice of children, and where they laugh at us, where we celebrate supposedly the birth as a mockery, or a birth of Christ. Research shows that Artemis 2 is an apparently crewed lunar flyby mission under the Artemis program, launched from Kennedy Space Center on the 1st of April 2026. The 10-day mission is intended to carry NASA astronauts. Read what, I'm not going to mention all their names, but it's got their names, on a free return trajectory around the moon and back to Earth. It is the second flight of the Space Launch System, SLS. That's bound to that's bound to get some results of searching that. The first crewed mission of the Orion spacecraft, and the first mission beyond low Earth orbit since Apollo 17 in December 1972. That's the year, by the way, it's the year after the World Economic Forum began, and it's also the year that Jimmy Savile purchased the property that we're talking about at Exbourne Manor, that's linked to Exbourne Manor and close to Exbourne Manor in Bournemouth. On the mission's first day, Glover became the first person of colour, Koch the first woman, and Hansen the first non-US citizen to travel beyond low Earth orbit. As planned, the mission will make Glover the first person first woman, and Hansen the first non-US citizen to travel to the vicinity of the moon. The mission is expected to set several human spacelift records, including distance from Earth and velocity, atmospheric speed. Artemis 2 is a flight test supporting subsequent Artemis missions, which are planned to return humans to the lunar surface in 2028 for the first time since Apollo 17. The mission was originally designated Exploration Mission 2 or EM2 and was initially intended to support the now cancelled asteroid redirect mission. What have we just been talking about, everyone? Asteroid deceptions. Redirect mission proposed in 2013. Its objectives were revised after the establishment of the Artemis program in 2017, which is after the Pizzagate scandal became exposed and Donald Trump was positioned. The mission objectives are similar to those of Apollo 8 in 1968, the first crewed lunar flight during the Apollo program. However, it's planned to return free trajectory more closely resembles that flown by Apollo 13. Now, I had seen Artemis companies throughout my research, but I had not focused on them until now, and that's thanks to somebody else that's been contacted me, and there's some great information coming in from other people, so thank you very much to those of you sending them. Please don't worry about sending me videos of stuff unless it is talking about Companies House. Generally, you can't trust pretty much everything you're seeing, so I would be very, very cautious about, and I haven't got time to watch videos unless it's specifically talking about the Companies House fraud, because it's obviously the key to all of this. Artemis Trustees Limited. So thank you very much to the person that assisted me with this. I really, really appreciate it. Artemis Trustees Limited had been incorporated in 2023 as I escalated the exposure of the fraud. The directors have been hidden completely from view. It has an address in Guernsey, a tax haven location, which obviously allows the ability to launder money. Richard Perry of the Institute of Chartered Accountants and Aquila Tax LLP of 85 Great Portland Street, used throughout the fraud, is on its incorporation documents. We know it links straight to the centralized criminal network, which means it will be linking into the blood of the children. All right, but you're going to see some specific connections to the blood. A search of Aquila Tax LLP also reveals Aquila Biomedical Limited, having been appointed to Aquila Histoplex LLP and leading to Tissueplex. Remember, biomedical, Tissueplex. Remember what we're talking about: extension of life, blood, organ harvesting, tissues, etc. Here we have biomedical Tissueplex, supporting the evidence of the possible laundering of money through the false space exploration in relation to extension of life and the lives of the rich and those behind the criminal system. Someone else had identified that Artemis Trustees Limited had been appointed to a company called Wellburn Capital LLP in 2017 after the Pizzagate scandal had been exposed. The company had been incorporated in 2016 and has a registered address of Crown House. James Rothschild of an address of JR Cap LLC, Rockefeller Plaza in New York, is among others shown on the incorporation document. If you don't know who the Rothschilds are, then they are a family going back a very long time, banking family, and they are massively implicated in the crimes against humanity, the deception, linking in with the Goldsmiths, all the way through my research. They're trying to make it seem as though, this is how much they're worried, everybody. They're trying to make it seem as though the Rothschilds are dying off. Okay, so they had, as I was starting to expose the fraud in 2022, one of them suddenly died in the fires in early 2025 in Hollywood. One of them supposedly died. And I'm seeing deaths happening around key people in the fraud all the way through this. They are not dying, everybody. They are trying to set up an ability to say, it's okay, everybody, we've got rid of those that are behind all of this, you're all okay now and you're safe. It's a lie, everybody, okay? They are seriously cornered, centuries old, if not thousands of years old, plan, all being exposed through this evidence and how it ties to the blood of the children and to falsified prophecies and a lack of faith and a plan to destroy not only the creator, faith in the creator, but destroy all of creation as well, according to the research. So we have James Rothschild. This obviously makes the apparent link to the Rothschilds family and the Rockefeller family, shown in important areas of the research of the fraud and apparent crimes against children and humanity. Just one little bit of that research. So the Lockerbie bombing was in 1988 when a Pan Am American Airways aeroplane was bombed over Lockerbie in Scotland. In 1987 or 86, the research suggests that Jeffrey Epstein was given the role or the task to take over Pan Am American Airways. So the year before, or a couple of years before, I can't remember, it's either 1986 or 1987. When you research Companies House records, Pan Am American Airways links to a Rockefeller, one of the Rockefeller families, coming in from Jeffrey Epstein. You hit Pan Am American Airways, a member of the Rockefeller family. Okay. You also hit what's the organisation called? Oh, it's gone out of my mind now. No, it's gone out of my mind. It's an organisation that links directly to the cell towers, massively to the cell towers. Okay, not only to the cell towers, but to the development of radar, first of all, leading into the cell towers. Okay, when you research the suspect, one of the two main suspects for the Lockerbie bombing, the one that was convicted in 2001, same year as the World Trade Center disaster, the record goes back in through Companies House and links to Pan Am American Airways. Again, American Airways. So it's a lie. It's a lie. And they tried blaming that on a faith group, and a skin colour, to fit the Albert Pike letter, deception, written into the 3 World War deception. Okay, in all of this. And you're also being deceived regarding the grooming gangs. Okay, as part of the deception. I've done the research around this. It began in Rochdale. Okay, and when you look at the evidence surrounding Cyril Smith, he was the MP for Rochdale, and he is linked to the crimes against children. And guess what? He links to radar companies, linking back into the threat of directed energy and everything I'm talking about. Okay, he was the MP for Rochdale until I think it was 1992, which is when the year that the Catholic Church became a legal entity, and when the Companies House records started to become electronic, which is how I found out about the fraud. Everybody, it's all part of the deception to get you focusing on a skin colour, a faith, and making that link to the crimes against the children, rather than the link of the system, which is predominantly white people. Everybody, predominantly white people. Of course, there will be different skin colours involved in the crimes against the children and the blood. Anyway, Artemis Trustees Limited, Rothschilds, straight away, James Rothschild and Rockefellers. A search for this company, JR Cap LLC, that's on that incorporation document for Artemis, through Google reveals JR Capital Limited, that had been incorporated in 2006. John Robert Collier Wright is in the People record and connects this company to 66 Abbey Road Limited, that had been incorporated in 1999 and had been a criminal company, having been incorporated with the same companies as Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. I suspect that this 66 Abbey Road Limited may refer to the Beatles album cover and the possible death of the real Paul McCartney in 1966, the year of the foundation of the Church of Satan, and appearing to possibly link to the Cray twins and Arthur Thompson behind his death, as shown in the research elsewhere. Referring back to JR Capital Limited, Ashok Bardwaj is in the People record. Records for Bardwaj, this exact name, are shown throughout the research and connect immediately to Ingenious Film Partners 2 LLP, which links to my upbringing and is shown on page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, that links all areas of the fraud together, or practically all areas of the frauds. This name also connects immediately, directly to UNICEF companies, which is the organisation set up by the United Nations in 1946 to supposedly help children around the world in times of conflict. Of course, it's now almost certain from the evidence they were actually set up to take the children from the deceptive conflicts and use them for the blood and the organ harvesting in what I'm telling you about. And the NHS was set up 2 years later in 1948. So was the Association of Chief Police Officers of the United Kingdom, who are linked to a doomsday cult. This name was still on this exact same name, okay? So Bardwaj also connects immediately in my research to cloud spraying. And that was via Andrew Bridgen. I saw a video of him mentioning a company, 2XL, being involved in cloud spraying. Research 2XL, immediately Bardwaj again. It's exactly the same person's name, right? Fake name. It'll be a made-up name, stolen identity, to create the connection, which means they can then launder the money through those different areas of their sinister agenda, you see, and funnel it into their agenda. It features immediately to the research of the American Defense Contract Audit Agency. So the agency in America that oversees the finances regarding their defense. So now you have a link to the cloud spraying, directly to the criminal network, and to the actual defense organization within the United States. It also connects immediately from that, okay, to the Las Vegas shooting, because the Las Vegas shooter of 2017 used to work for the Defense Contract Audit Agency. Via the research of that shooting, it goes to my former colleague, okay, and my former friend and colleague, Guy Briscoe, who was positioned by me when I went to work in Dorset, and he then went to work on the Isle of Wight and then on the mainland in the training department. He also links almost directly to the blood of the tortured children via a name on an incorporation document linked to, what was his name, Ricky Dearman in the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry, who also links to the research of Harold Shipman. This is my former friend and employee, Guy Briscoe. This Bardwaj name also connects to the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry, I've mentioned that, to the Dunblane Massacre, almost immediately. Now, of course, we have to suspect that those children were not shot, and they made up that story to take those children into the blood and organ harvesting network. We have to seriously consider that. Now, via the research of that, it links to the Satanic Temple United Kingdom, it links to Donald Trump, links to Jimmy Savile, it links very, very quickly to Candace Owens via the research, which means a link to her husband, Farmer. It links to Charlie Kirk. It links to the Concorde disaster. This is that name, Bardwaj. The Concorde disaster research immediately to the research of the Dorset Chief Constable Amanda Pearson, who was positioned as my inquiries continued, took over from Scott Chilton. She links to Skin and Clinton companies and Duran Duran in the entertainment industry, which then links to more skin companies. She links to KPMG, which was the audit company for Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council, where my investigations began. It also links to directly Bardwaj to the COVID response, leading into the AIDS outbreak research, which links with the Cray twins, to Angelina Jolie. It also links to Jill Dando's fiance immediately in the research of her death, linking to the Vatican and De Rea company connected to that, to the death of Michael Jackson, to the research of the Birmingham Six in the IRA deception, to the Duke of York's theatre and the invention of television, leading to British Kazakh Society, a company called British Kazakh Society, directly to a company called Talk of the Devil Limited, to Carter and Coley, the accountants for Exbourne Manor and Freehold Limited, and Friends of the Flemings, and hundreds of formations companies shown in the research of pornography site Pornhub, and in the research of the moon launch. Research shows that James Amschel Victor Rothschild, remember he's on the incorporation document, is a British financier and a member of the Rothschild banking family in England and the Guinness family making an important link to Ireland in the fraud. And actually, this is where the Guinness scandal is going to link in with this. One of the biggest, a huge scandal from 1980s linking into the Guinness company. In 2015, he married Nikki Hilton, an American socialite, fashion designer and model. James Rothschild was born in Westminster, London, England on the 14th of May 1985 as the youngest child and only son of Amschel Mayor James Rothschild, a British businessman who was a member of the Rothschild banking family of England, and his wife Anita Patience Guinness was her previous name, a British socialite who was a member of the Guinness family. He has two sisters, Kate Emma Rothschild, a music promoter, and Alice Miranda Rothschild Goldsmith. There we go, Goldsmith connection there. I hadn't noticed that. That's the first time I've noticed that. Alice Miranda Rothschild Goldsmith. There we go. So they've interbred there, it looks like. A company director. Here we go, you see everybody? And remember, this links back in an article claiming that James Goldsmith was the real father of Princess Diana, as a deception against you all. And then the information that Douglas Dougie Smith, who was the special advisor for the last few prime ministers, worked for James Goldsmith. And he practices dark arts and has been arrested for threats to kill with a firearm. And he started up Fever Sex Parties, a 5-star orgy fest for the under 40s, spending your money to do so, stolen from the masses. Rothschilds began his career as an investment banking professional at NM Rothschilds and Son Limited, which features all the way through my research. He has previously served as an analyst at JNR UK Limited and an analyst at Hargreave Hale Limited from 2005 to 2006. A search for Hargreave Hale Limited reveals Hargreave Hale Nominees Limited that had been incorporated as Unity Nominees Limited in 1989, the same year that the World Wide Web was created for CERN. Remember, the creation of that World Wide Web leads to the ability to get the technology into your homes, in front of your face, and all around you. The World Wide Web. And it was created for CERN, which links into the Collider technology, everybody, and the end of creation. So it was created in 1989, before its name was changed for the only time, according to its overview in 2001, on the lead up to the World Trade Center deception. It has Stanley Davis Group on its apparently forged incorporation document, one of the main companies in the fraud. John Richard Gulliver connects Hale Nominees Limited to 25 companies, including UBS reorganisation, with UBS appearing to relate to a Swiss bank and linking immediately to the research of Sir Nigel Hamilton Sweeney KC, the judge in the apparent Lee Rigby murder, that links straight to CERN, by the way, right, via that. And that Lee Rigby murder connects to the MP, Tobias Elwood, who happened to be there to try and help. Sorry, no, I'm talking about, that's different, that's Keith Palmer, sorry. But this Lee Rigby links to CERN. Tobias Elwood is the MP for where Exmoor Manor is, and he was intervened in the supposed stabbing of Keith Palmer, the police officer. And that, but the research surrounding Lee Rigby links straight into CERN, straight to CERN. So the judge of the apparent Lee Rigby murder, and also to a company called Gala Film Partnership, which connects back to Ingenious Film Partners and the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. Again, it also links, so we're still talking about UBS companies, this Swiss bank, to my friend's family in Kent, Andrew Morgan, who I believe is a member of the JP Morgan family, linking to important areas of the research and the fraud, including the Royal Yachting Association, which links to the apparent infiltration of the Royals and other areas of the fraud as shown in my research. James Rothschild, going back to his research, has served, remember, he links straight to Artemis trustees, and Artemis is the name, Artemis 2 is the name of the project regarding the moon expedition. James Rothschild has served as a partner and vice president at Monument Capital Group LLC since 2010. He was a co-founder of West Arrow, an investment and advisory firm. He also serves as a partner of LEPE, or LEP, L-E-P-E, Partners LLP. Rothschild is the CEO and founder of JR Capital Limited. He is a founder, which is the company I think I spoke about earlier. He is a founder and managing partner of True Arrow Partners, a global growth technology firm, and information shows that that company has investments in SpaceX, which obviously is involved in this space exploration. Rothschild was 11 years old, and this is critical. According to remember, I can't verify this, but look where it leads. Okay, remember, this is Wikipedia, so, but the main evidence I'm going to be talking to you about and see where it goes from this. James Rothschild was 11 years old when his father died by suicide at Hotel Le Bristol, Paris. When he was 17, his mother married James Adair Wigan, a bloodstock agent. So his stepfather is a bloodstock agent. This is critical and further supports life extension being an important element in this. A company South Search shows James Adair Wigan, the exact same name that we've just mentioned, his stepfather, okay, connected to two companies, London Thoroughbred Services Limited and Plantation Stud Limited. And remember what I've been saying, the bloodstock trade linking with the horses and the crimes against children, the hunting of children regarding fox hunting on estates, and all of that linking in with these organisations. London Thoroughbred Services Limited was incorporated as Blaze Gap in 1976 and has a registered address of Cranbourne in Dorset, where Deborah Fleming was the NHS chief executive, given the ability to use the NHS to siphon the blood from the innocents through that National Health Service. She was the one that was involved in Expoor Manor when my investigation began, and retired from the NHS as a CEO as I was starting to make earlier inquiries. And as she then got involved, she was ultimately the one that then called the meeting to have me removed as a director, even though 2 or 3 months earlier they were trying, because they didn't know what to do about me, they were trying to be very supportive of me in what, and some of you may have seen the video of John Fleming standing up and saying, why is somebody trying to remove Gary? He's the only person that's trying to do anything. And why have we got thousands and thousands of pounds missing through our company? Because they had to try and get me to buy into them at that point, you see, to get me on board, to manipulate me and divert me away from the truth, which is what I'm telling you about. So then they realised where I was going with it, and Deborah Fleming then initiated my removal as a director to try and stop me preventing the bank documents being filed, which were forged by somebody on the Treasury Department of Lloyds Bank. And Lloyds Bank, you're going to see later, is linking to the blood of the children, to international child trafficking, to international drug trafficking. And it is shown on page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, that also connects to my upbringing and to religious establishments. This explains why I was taken to a Lloyds Bank when I was a child with my friend's dad, and it was at night. It was when it was closed in the evening. He was a manager of the bank, and we went there. This is either divine, everybody, or certain things have happened deliberately for me to realise what it was all about later on in life. And I actually acquired forged Lloyds Bank documents through that company as part of my investigation. Oh, where are we? So we're looking at this company, London Thoroughbred Services Limited. Listen to this, everyone, it's unbelievable. London Thoroughbred Services Limited, okay? It has on its incorporation document George Albert Cordroy of 84 Temple Chambers, Temple Avenue, and the London Law Agency on its incorporation document, making major connections to the criminal network and my dreams. It connects have I mentioned it? Yeah, I've mentioned it in a minute. Cordroy, on that incorporation document, is the name of the founder of the London Law Agency that died on the 5th of April 2020 during the COVID situation, the same day that Keir Starmer resigned from the Death Penalty Project Limited that has the London Law Agency on its incorporation document. The London Law Agency links directly to Madeleine's fund, leaving no stone unturned, Madeleine McCann. It also links to Bates, Wells and Braithwaite's. Bates, Wells and Braithwaite's is who P. Diddy used in his defence in the child trafficking allegations against him after that investigation was launched against him in 2024. James Adair Wigan also connects to so this is the person within the company. Oh, bear with me. Let me just go back. Sorry. Oh, here we are. Anita Patience Wigan. Interesting, we remember because we had the name Patience linking to that linked to Rothschild, didn't it, in the research earlier? Well, now we have Anita Patience Wigan. I think it was Rothschild. It might have been in the research of yeah, it linked into the research, didn't it? Anita Patience Wigan connects London Thoroughbred Services Limited to 11 companies, including National Stud Limited. They have been incorporated in October 2007, not long after Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited began, where my investigations began. Wigan also connects to the seaside company Dorset Limited. Unbelievable, isn't it, everybody? That was incorporated as the Seaside Hotel Company in May 2007, the same month that Madeleine McCann went missing, before its name was changed in May 2012, the month after Jeffrey Epstein appears to have held a meeting with Stephen Hawking and CERN scientists. Now that 84 Temple Chambers is on the incorporation document for Stephen Hawking's company, okay? The name, instead of the Cordroy name, you have Nigel Leonard Blood, but you have the same address. Nigel Leonard Blood links immediately to Elon Musk. Okay, Elon Musk links in through my brother-in-law's company that's linked to Exbourne Manor. So you have this immediate connection. It links to my dream of McDonald's, which links into that address, and via the research or linking back in with my family. So this all links into CERN. Everything we're talking about now, including the rockets, all links into CERN and the blood of the children, and practically immediately. Dorset is where my investigation began and where Jimmy Savile owned a property linked to Exbourne Manor, where my it has research and reporting limited business information on its incorporation document, okay? This is the same company we're talking about. It has research and reporting limited business information on its incorporation document that appears to have been doctored. Business Information Research and Reporting Limited had already been linked to the fraud, and Leeds Jewish Welfare Services Limited and to Leeds Restaurant Association Limited in the research of illegal organ harvesting, with Leeds being significant to Jimmy Savile. It's where he was born, where he had properties, and remember, he had properties in Bournemouth. Okay, so you can see it makes that connection now to Leeds. Restaurants, probably putting children in the food chain. I'm sorry to say, everybody. More than likely in all of this, the leftovers from the organ harvesting and from the blood being harvested from the children. So any of you that are involved in this, if you're not going to stop it and come out with the truth, please take your lives so that the rest of humanity can be free, so the children can be free, and so that creation can be saved. It seems as though you are under some sort of oath where you are unable to speak out, probably because you've been told that your family will all be taken out as well if you say anything. Well, you know, there's going to be no future for anybody. So you all need to come out, or you need to take your life. Those of you that are involved in this, key to this, I'm sorry to say that. This is not something I say, you know, without feeling or emotion. This is a practical, if you're not going to stop ending creation and targeting children, and of course you will be, if you actually care and you're unable to speak about it, then obviously you're going to be suffering and you're almost trapped in a situation if you probably want to take your life anyway, because you're just trapped in this situation. However, if it's going to save creation and save children, please take your lives. Those of you that are running this system, it may be the only way to prevent the end of creation based on all of my evidence. Please do it. I'd rather you come out with the truth, trust me, because I think you can all be saved. I think you can all be saved spiritually, as I keep saying, through truth, through repentance, and through a commitment to change. But if you're not going to do that, please save the rest of the children. Take your lives. We need a system based on transparency and incentivized choice around that transparency. Incentivized choice and transparency is key. A system that protects humanity and creation from its leadership. So we have this link to illegal organ harvesting to Leeds. It is also connected, so remember we're talking about Business Information Research and Reporting Limited. That exact same company links to one of Kenneth Noye's accomplices, linked to major organizational crime within the police, and making connections again to bloodstock trade companies via Kenneth Noye. If you're not aware of who he is, he was a Freemason that was arrested for an M25 murder. I doubt he even went in prison. When he got convicted, he shouted to all of the jury, "I hope you all die of cancer." Now he knew cancer was being caused deliberately. He is very significant via the research of Kenneth Noye. Very, very important evidence linking back in to the bloodstock trade, and we'll be linking with the organ harvesting again. So the evidence is fairly, and let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. You can make your own minds up on the space shuttle side of things. So we have this link to Kenneth Noye's associate, who has links to the police. It also, sorry Donald Trump fans, that company links immediately to a company called White Hats Limited. So those who've been saying the white hats are good and they're going to protect you, we now have a link to the organ harvesting, the blood, into Donald Trump. There's many other connections as well, but this is an actual White Hats Limited company linking to Kenneth Noye and all of these things I'm talking about. Juliet Rose Sturridge connects the seaside company Dorset Limited to 7 companies, including the White House Post Productions Limited. The White House Post Productions Limited, that had been incorporated in 1990 and has Sundar Mansakhani on its apparently a forged incorporation document, making critical connections to the NHS Confederation. We have organ harvesting, blood trafficking, crimes against children, NHS, linking in with the Rockets, linking in with Kenneth Noye, linking in with CERN, all in this really small bit of evidence, everybody. Irrefutable connections that everybody can verify, everybody, to see that it is true. And this is why what I'm telling you is the most important evidence in the history of humanity, okay? Because it has the ability to bring heaven on earth and a system of transparency, which means this will never, ever happen again, okay? You have been lied to on so many levels. So have I. I fell for it. My goodness me, until 2022, I was literally believing everything. I had 2-3 vaccines, I think. So we have this White House Productions. Well, the White House Limited had already been featured in the fraud, making important connections, and seemingly to the American government, to the Isle of Wight, where Deborah Fleming had also been the NHS CEO. Referring back to this name of Anita Patience Wigan that we mentioned earlier, they also connect London Thoroughbred Services Limited to the Thoroughbred Breeders Association, that connects immediately to Orchard Bloodstock Limited in the research of Kenneth Noy as well. So we have a link back into Kenneth Noy, but immediately now to a bloodstock company that connects into the research of Kenneth Noy and therefore the Freemasons, and linking to major areas of the centralized criminal network as shown elsewhere. A search of James Rothschild. Remember, James Rothschild is on the Artemis company along with the Rockefellers. Through Company's House, through Google's, reveals J. Rothschild's Capital Management Limited that had been incorporated as Most Pride Limited in 1987. It has been a criminal company, having been incorporated with the exact same companies that started Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, the company where my investigation began. Christopher James Wise connects J. Rothschild's Capital Management Limited, the company we're talking about, to 88 companies, including many Santander, Abbey National and Cater Allen companies, making important connections to the Flemings, the fraud and the World Trade Center disaster. I would advise you all not to be looking at your screens too much. I know I'm looking at it quite a lot, but the evidence suggests they are trying to blind all of humanity. I don't know if that may mean they have the ability for a sudden exposure from those devices, or they're building up to that. I don't know. But it looks as though from the evidence, they are hoping to blind humanity somehow to lead to the fake revelation, to trap you in a body that you can't control, so that you seek death and cannot find it. Michael Brower connects J. Rothschild Capital Management Limited to Kinloss Educational Trust that had been incorporated in February 2012 and dissolved in 2017 after the Pizzagate scandal had been exposed. For those of you who just joined, what we're looking at is the evidence coming in from the Artemis moon expedition, linking into the blood of the children, international government fraud. You can verify everything I'm saying by listening back on the video or doing it as we're talking, and please do that. You know, search it every now and then. Even just search some of the companies I'm talking about and verify what I'm telling you. You'll see it is all true. People around the world are verifying this to confirm it is true, everybody. Harry Jonathan. Oh. Earlier we looked at, just if you've just recently joined us, we were looking at the new COVID outbreak variant and the deception surrounding that, and how that also appears to link back into me and this investigation. Harry Jonathan connects Kinloss Education Trust to 21 companies, including Take 8 Film Limited Liability Partnership. They've been incorporated in 2005 and dissolved in 2023. As I escalate the exposure, Smith and Williamson are on the incorporation document and in the people record, making important connections almost immediately to Queen Camilla and Dorset, where she is also linked quickly to Jimmy Savile's property, which is connected to Exbourne Manor as shown elsewhere. Dr. Michael Nathan Dubowitz is in the people record of Take 8 Film Limited Liability Partnership and connects to Cardiac Practice Limited. Remember the blood and the organ harvesting? Well, here we have Cardiac Practice Limited and Cardiology Diagnostics Limited, but also they connect to the Close Film Sale Leaseback LLP, making critical connections to the Goldsmiths, to Satanic Temple United Kingdom, to the intelligence agencies and major areas of the criminal network and apparent crimes against children as shown elsewhere. The research of James Rothschild's wife shows that Nicola, Olivia Nikki Rothschild, former name Hamilton, was born in 1983 and is an American socialite, fashion designer and model. She is a member of the Hilton family by birth and of the Rothschild family following her 2015 marriage to James Rothschild, a grandson of Victor Rothschild and 3rd Baron Rothschild. Hilton is the younger sister of Paris Hilton. Hilton was born in 1983 in New York City to Richard Hilton and Kathy Hilton. She was raised in Los Angeles. She was named after her granduncle Conrad Nicky Hilton. Her siblings are Paris Hilton, as we've said, Baron Hilton and Conrad Hughes Hilton. Hilton was raised Catholic. Hilton graduated from Convent of the Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart an all-girls Catholic school on the Upper East Side in 2001, the World Trade Center disaster year. She took the course at Fashion Institute of Technology and Parsons, the New School for Design, without earning a degree. The company's house search shows a Nikki Hilton, might not be her, connected to 3 companies, including Main Property Limited, that have been incorporated in 2018. Ian Grant connects Main Property Limited to Ramsey Porsche Limited, that have been incorporated in 2013, and has companies made simple on its incorporation document, making the connection to the paedophile information exchange and the World Trade Center disaster. Somebody sent me some information and said, Gary, but that companies made simple is available to any member of the public to use that as an address for their company. Why would anyone be trying to use an address for their company they have absolutely no connection to whatsoever? That means their company can get away with major crime and laundering money, can't it? Whether it's available to the public or not. They may not be part of the blood of the children, but they are facilitating the blood of the children by being part of that. And this is why the likes of John O'Looney is part of this centralised criminal network, and it appears the plans against all of creation. Otherwise, he'd be coming forward and talking about this. An Undertaker, former Undertaker. We're going to be coming into an Undertaker in the evidence shortly. And of course, that links in to the organ harvesting evidence, okay? And into the blood of the children via the Undertakers. And also the ability to get rid of people that are trying to expose the system, hide bodies, etc. We're going to be coming into that a bit later anyway, because there was a critical news article came out that facilitated my evidence. So we're going to be talking about that later. Remember, this is worth, a lot of these people, remember, organ harvesting and blood, illegal blood harvesting, is worth a vast amount of money. The people involved in that side of it, the organ harvesting, thinking maybe it's going to just be going to, help somebody's life further down the line, they don't know, potentially, the conclusive agenda in all of this, at the top of all of this, the end of all of creation. Now, I'm not saying John O'Looney is involved in organ harvesting, okay? But he's linked to companies made simple, which means there's a link to the paedophile information exchange and the World Trade Center disaster. And then when you go in through the records, it appears to make links back into the Satanic Temple United Kingdom via the research of John O'Looney. So, he's the one that was coming out saying that there were blood clots in the bodies being caused by the vaccines. That's a deception. It's a lie, everybody. Maybe they lace some of the vaccines. All right, that is hiding a much bigger deception. It's obvious. It's blatant now with the evidence that I'm acquiring. Okay, you're talking a much bigger link in all of this to the Vatican, to the falsified prophecies, to the blood of the children, and the extension of life. It seems for a select few. So we have Matthew Stewart Evans connects Ramsey Porsche Limited to 7 companies, including RP Talent Limited, so a talent company, it looks like, that have been incorporated as Round Pegs Recruitment Limited in 2013 before its name was changed in May 2025 for the only time as the exposure continued. It's a long time, isn't it, for 12 years for it to not change its name and then suddenly change of name as I'm exposing the fraud. And that's a key month, May 2025. It's when the Siemens company linked to CERN changed its name for the first time since 1962. That Siemens company links to the Nazi regime, which ties back into the deception, into the Vatican and the infiltration, tying into all of this. Alex Kerr is on the incorporation document and in the people record and connects RP Talent Limited to 12 companies, including Sapphire Estate Agents, in brackets Shawbridge Worth Limited, that have been incorporated in 2010, dissolved in 2012. Formations Direct and Yomtov Jacobs are on the incorporation document. Just in case you're just joining us, we're talking about the deception regarding the latest outbreak variant and also the supposed moon exploration rocket and how that links in with the blood of the children into the organ harvesting, and that expedition very likely being used as a deception to launder money through it in relation to the blood of the children and the organ harvesting, and how that links in with the falsified prophecies and in fact in with the potential falsified religions as a fear of death. Alex Keir is on the incorporation. I've read that, haven't I? Yeah. So remember, we've got this Yomtov Jacobs and Formations Direct. Well, that's used right the way throughout the criminal network, everybody. That's one of the names that they use. Yomtov Jacobs and Formations Direct make important connections throughout the centralised criminal network. This includes the research of Homestart, Hampshire, from the Chinese Prime Minister Kang Lee, and linking with my former school to the research of Johnny Depp via the Sweeney Todd group. Now, when you hit the research of my former school, it links with a Knights Templar location via a Waterman offshore company, and there's a Masonic building as well there. So from this company, it also links, as I've said, to the leader of the Chinese Prime Minister, practically immediately from the research. Remember, this is worldwide harvesting of blood from the innocents and organ harvesting, okay, and how the international criminal network is surrounding that and linking in with the falsified prophecies. And very likely, you probably have around 200 people that have been positioned as fake fallen angels in relation to this, possibly to fit the falsified prophecies. So it also links, as I've said, to the research of Johnny Depp via Sweeney Todd. And the Sweeney Todd group links back into the Vatican. Okay. To serial killers, Peter Sutcliffe and Rose West and Fred West. To KM Solutions UK Limited, from the research of the infiltration of the royals. To the leadership of Iran, almost immediately. To the suspect of the London Bridge attack. To an Evergreen company, which means the Clintons, and back into the Pizzagate scandal, in the research of the Hillsborough disaster, which was almost certainly deliberate now, I'm sorry to say. We have to consider that they deliberately killed all of those people in the Hillsborough disaster in 1989, everybody, the same year that the World Wide Web was created for CERN. And they came out with the investigation in 2012, the same year that CERN discovered the Higgs boson or God particle. Now, I hope they were all actors and nobody died, but it looks as though that was a real event. And it was, if you're not aware, it was a fire there in the Hillsborough Stadium, and the gates were not opened in time by the police and the organisers in time, and many people died. And they actually set up a criminal Hillsborough company linked into the football organisations, and that links straight back into Madeleine McCann. And the same evidence that we were just talking about earlier, linking in with CERN, Keir Starmer, back into P. Diddy, back into the Royal Foundation, the Prince and Princess of Wales, immediately from it, okay? Your psychosis means, okay, I think, is that towards me? If that's towards me, you're obviously going. The House of Mirrors. Is that comment aimed at me? What dear? Yes, okay, goodbye. That's probably Reynard Wilson, who's linked to the military, cell towers, vaccine companies, blood of children, via the research. Okay. We're going to change the subject soon, but I just want to get this evidence out. It's pretty mind-blowing what I'm finding. The Undertaker evidence is going to be important, and I'll talk about what I mean by that. I mean, if you're just joining us, then we're talking about the evidence of the international government fraud coming in from the Artemis II expedition to the moon, and the blood of the tortured children, organ harvesting, linking in with the international criminal network and Freemasons, very likely being used to launder money in relation to that through a fake moon expedition. And if you look at the videos, it doesn't go straight up, okay, arches over, and it looks as though it's not even going to go into space. So they're probably, if that was a real actual launch, then they're probably just ditching the rockets in the sea, and there was probably no one even on it. So we have links to Fred West, serial killers, Evergreen Company, I've mentioned that. This is all from, okay, that same name. It's the exact same name linking these areas together, everybody. All right? I mean, it's blatantly obvious. It's there for everyone to see. It has been. We're linked to an Evergreen company, also to the research of rapid response that was targeting me, to the 3-Eye Atlas Comet Deception, everybody, to Rishi Sunak, to Metropolitan Police Service, MPS in the acronym, to the cell towers via IX Wireless, and to links to Gerald McCann, to the Environmental Protection Agency, and the banning of lead from paint, which will link back into the threat of directed energy from the cell towers that I'm telling you about, to make you ill, to get you to go into the hospitals, to take your blood. To Sarah Ferguson via Lord Michael Ian Grade, and with links to bloodstock companies via Sarah Ferguson. It's no coincidence that Sarah Ferguson is suddenly being stripped of everything. They've had to make it seem that way because they realise what's coming, everybody. There's no coincidence that... what was her name? What's her name? The daughter. Not Fergie. That's her, isn't it? What's her name? It's gone out of my head. What's the daughter? What's Sarah Ferguson's daughter's name? Oh, not Beatrice, the other one. Eugenie. Thank you very much, Vanessa. Eugenie. Yeah, it's no coincidence that Eugenie has announced, as I'm doing this expose, she's stepping back from the anti-slavery organisation, because the anti-slavery organisation was an inversion. It was about enslaving you all, okay? And it linked into massively into part of the centralised criminal network. I've done the research. Yeah, it wasn't Beatrice, but thank you. I have researched Beatrice. She's also linked into the criminal network. And when you when you look at Sarah Ferguson, I haven't mentioned it here, you have a company called the Sacred Cow. I think cow, because it's linked to other parts of the research, is the name for the children. Sacred Cow, because they're taking the blood from the cows, calling them the cows, all right, cattle, all right, we are the cattle, because it's extending the life, linking in with their extension of life. I think this is why you've got the saying, until the cows come home, referring to the children. You've also got other cow companies coming in from the Feversham Child Abuse Inquiry, linking with Stephen Fry and the Mind Foundation, which was set up in 1946 in relation to mental health, which ties back in with the UNICEF being incorporated, okay, which is an inversion to actually take children from international conflicts. That you also, 1946, you had the Tavistock Institute, which was created, a mind control program that was then integrated into the NHS. The NHS, as I said earlier, was started in 1948, the year after the Doomsday Clock began. So we have a link to Metropolitan Police, we have IX Wireless, we have a link to Sarah Ferguson via this, we have bloodstock companies, the research of Barbara Emery, links to that exact same name, everybody. Vanessa, you're watching. Remember that we've been speaking about Barbara Emery. Well, that name links straight now to this, via that name in the infiltration of the Royals, to International Clinical Virology Centre, a company called that in the research of Anthony Kidman, to a company called QCC Global Limited in the research of organ harvesting, again, to Frame to Film Productions Limited in the research of Andrew McFarlane, the head of the family court, where they'll be using fake court documents to steal children from families in the United Kingdom and putting them into the child trafficking and blood network. We have a link to, all from this same name. Oh, why is that not? Oh, that's a video, that's why. Wondering why the image. The head of the family courts, I've said. And I've mentioned the moon landing. So what about SpaceX? Well, SpaceX is featured in previous research in my document, but I haven't specifically gone into it. A company's house search shows SpaceX Limited. Now remember, SpaceX is the company that Elon Musk is involved in that rocket launch. SpaceX Limited was incorporated in 1975, 4 years after the World Economic Forum, 2 years after the World Trade Center was finished being built, and it dissolved in 2018. Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to... Benjamin de Cruz connects SpaceX Limited to 13 companies, including Peninsula Accountants Limited, that had been incorporated in June 2011 between the Christchurch earthquake and Jimmy Savile's death. Jeffrey Charles Fairclough connects Peninsula Accountants Limited to 86 companies, including various finance, audit, payroll, tax companies, and critically to Scion, or Shion, S-C-I-O-N, is that Scion? Films, Sale and Leaseback 6th LLP, that makes almost immediate connections to David Icke. It also connects to Temple, United Kingdom, to the Royals, to major pornography via the Pornhub site, Pornhub research. Where are we? To David Icke, to Sherborne in Dorset, which links to artificial intelligence. This is exact same name, exact same company. To the Pornhub I've mentioned, to the accountants of Exbourne Manor via Pornhub. In the research of the BBC article, which links to educational child abuse stemming from historical child crimes by Neil Fodden, which links into the Flemings, directly to a company called Treasure Islands Kids Limited Liability, which links to Virgin Organisations and therefore to the Pizzagate scandal, to Criminal United Nations Company, having been incorporated with the same company as Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. And that all stems from the research of my wife's former employer from Sherborne. And her employer was Charles Sherwin, who had a... and please, you know, Charles, if you're not going to do the right thing and come out with the truth, please take your life, because you don't deserve to be here anymore if you're not going to help save the children and prevent this criminal network leading into the end of all of creation. Now, his wife was an oncology doctor at Southampton University, which links back in with the cancer deception. And he links into, as I've said, the literal island company called the, what's it gone? Sorry, I'm getting a little bit tired. Kids Limited Liability. Oh no, there's a bit. Where is it? It's on here somewhere. Oh, here we go. Treasure Islands Kids Liability. Treasure Islands Kids Limited Liability Company. That's what it's actually called, everybody. I can't speak. And that links into Virgin Foundation, which obviously Richard Branson has an island near Jeffrey Epstein. So you can see how this all ties in. And there's a Virgin Management Company on the incorporation document for a company linked to Hillary Clinton, which means that links into the Pizzagate scandal and the apparent skinning of a young person alive. It also links, we're still talking about the same company, to Sweeney Todd Group, okay? And the centralised criminal solicitor firms, which then links to the Royals, the De Reyes, the Vatican, the BBC, Jill Dando's murder, the death of Michael Jackson, the death of Stuart Lubbock, linking with Michael Barrymore, and much more via Field Fisher, as shown elsewhere. John Briner Edwards connects Peninsula Accountants LLP to 2 Invicta Film Partnership companies. So it's not just the Sion company. We've now got Invicta Film Partnership companies from the same company via another director, and that also links in with the Satanic Temple and everything I've just told you about. We also have him linking to Sully's financial planning, that I suspect is a reference to the character in the Monsters Inc. movie called Sully. I think his name was Sully, that is symbolic to adrenochrome, the blood of tortured children, as shown elsewhere in the research. Referring back to Benjamin de Cruz, remember he was the one we looked at first of all in the company. They connect to Exeter Chamber of Commerce 1992 Limited. That had already been linked immediately to Richard Knighton, who was the head of the military, brought in as the head of the UK military as I was exposing the international fraud. Richard Knighton. And he links very quickly to Robbie Williams, I'm sorry to say. A search for NASA. Oh, who do we need to remove? Why has Jane a beard? Is it Mixed Berry we need to get rid of? Unbelievable, isn't it, how these people are finding mockery on these groups with the blood of children. So they have blood on their hands, according to all of the research. Very likely why they call it blood money, I would have thought. That's probably why the term came from blood money. Yes. So Mixed Berry needs to go. Shame on you. Evil. Your time's coming, don't worry. Oh, I forgot to hide from channel. I've just removed them. There you go. Mixed Berry's gone. Don't block. Brockman Gary, we need them to know they know who they are. I would advise everybody just probably, there's no point really, I wouldn't even advise you to be looking at the screens at the moment, to be honest, but I know I am, but that doesn't mean all of you need to be facing the risk of going blind over this. So we have a link to Exeter Chamber of Commerce that already linked to Richard Knighton. A search for NASA. What about the name NASA then? Well, the company NASA. The search for NASA reveals NASA Umbrella Limited that had been incorporated in March 2009, 6 months before I became a director of Exbourne Manor and the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales was incorporated. It has Jordan's Limited on its incorporation document, making a direct link to Exbourne Manor and the main company in the fraud. This is a NASA company, everybody. Now, interestingly, there was, as I've said, I've had some really great contact from people over the last few days, and forgive me if I haven't. Oh, I need to give you my email addresses. Grab your pens. I'll give you my email addresses now. I completely forgot that earlier. So email addresses to get the document showing and proving absolutely everything. You can verify it all by clicking on the links. If you don't believe it, click on the links and you can verify it. And the main evidence is the Company's House records. My email addresses are Gary, the truth sets us free, @gmail.com. That's Gary with one R. The truth sets us free @gmail.com. Or you can email me on Gary Time for Freedom @proton.me. That's Gary with one R. Time for Freedom @proton.me. I'll give you the first one again. Gary, the truth sets us free @gmail.com. And the other one is Gary Time for Freedom @proton.me. That's Gary, the truth sets us free @gmail.com, and Gary Time for Freedom @proton.me. The document is absolutely critical to end all of this. All right, it really is so important. Everyone needs to get this document. It is by far the most important document on Earth at the moment because of the ability that it has to change the planet. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, I think a lot of the scriptures and stuff like that, they've been infiltrated. I don't believe that people are meant to be tortured until they seek death. I'm sorry, the Creator will not do that. Okay, the Creator, I believe, will judge those on their death for their consequences of humanity against children and humanity. But I believe there is the chance of spiritual salvation through truth, repentance, and a commitment to change. Personally, that's what I believe. Doesn't mean they're not going to face consequences here on Earth, but they should be worried about the eternal consequences. Anyway, during my research, I come across a little video, and it's amazing how it's proved very relevant in this. The video explains the relationship to Rome, horses, and the rockets used in the apparent space expeditions. And I'll just explain why. It says that in the Roman era, when they were very prominent, they would use the chariots on the roads that they made, because the Romans obviously were made a lot of the roads around the world, and they would create ruts in the road at a certain distance in that road, and anyone that had a carriage of a different distance of wheel would mean that it could break the wheel because of these ruts. This is actually where the term "you get stuck in a rut" comes from, which is quite ironic because the world is stuck in the most unbelievable rut possible, isn't it, at the moment in this situation. Anyway, these ruts, as I've said, made it difficult unless you had a carriage with exactly the same distance between the wheels. And it worked out that the distance between those wheels was just about the right size for 2 horses' asses. So the back ends of horses to go side by side, so they had 2 horsepower. That measurement that eventually became a universal measurement for the roads and the right distance for carrying items, etc., and in tunnels and stuff like that. Well, the 2 rockets that were formed and are used for the liftoff, they were going to be a lot bigger to enable supposedly better liftoffs, etc. But they had to make them a size that was relevant to be able to carry them on road. So those horses from the Roman times led to the size of the rockets. Now that prompted this next research. It's unbelievable, everybody. So that is quite an interesting little video. There's a bit more to it, but it also mentions in there stagecoaches or horse and coaches. This is possibly why the company Stagecoach is so relevant in this. It links from the research of Tom Hanks. You hit via the Company's House Records. You hit Stagecoach, and its logo is 3 twisted 6s into the logo, which is almost identical to CERN. It's also similar to the World Economic Forum sign and logo, and it's also almost identical to the logo for the Saudi Arabian meeting or forum that Donald Trump went to in 2025 when I was continuing to expose the fraud. And Saudi Arabia is massively linked into this. So it possibly refers to why Stagecoach is so relevant, and the chief executive of Stagecoach was investigated for child trafficking as I was exposing my evidence, and they've dropped all of the investigation against her. Now, whether they positioned that information specifically for me to find it, you know, as because of who I am in all of this, I don't know. But she was investigated for child trafficking. The video mentions the rockets known as solid rocket boosters, or SRBs, and mentions a company called Alliant Tech Systems in that video. Alliant Tech Systems Inc., in brackets ATK, was an American aerospace and arms manufacturer. According to the research, this is separate research I've done myself, headquartered in Arlington County, Virginia. The company operated across 22 states, Puerto Rico, and internationally. ATK revenue in fiscal year 2014 was about 4.8 billion. On April the 29th, 2014, ATK announced it would spin off its sporting group and merge its aerospace and defense groups with Orbital Sciences Corporation. The spin-off of the sporting group to create Vista Outdoor, and the merger leading to the creation of Orbital ATK were completed on the February the 9th, 2015. The companies began operations as separate entities on the 20th of February 2015. Orbital ATK was bought by Northrop Grumman. Okay, this becomes important in a minute. So Orbital ATK was bought by Northrop Grumman in 2018 after the Pizzagate scandal had been exposed, okay, and on the lead up to the COVID deception. ATK was launched as an independent company in 1990, originally after Honeywell spun off its defense business to shareholders. 1990 is an important year. It's the year after the World Wide Web was created for CERN. The former Honeywell businesses has supplied defense products and systems to the US and its allies for 50 years, including the first electronic autopilot for a B-17 aircraft. Oh, where's that gone? For those of you just joining, we're talking about the new COVID variant earlier, and then we're looking at the Artemis 2 launch to supposedly the moon, and how it links into the laundering of money in relation to the blood of the children, organ harvesting, and the international criminal network surrounding the Freemasons and the Companies House fraud. ATK was launched as an independent company, as I mentioned, in 1990. Defense products and systems to the US and its allies for 50 years, including the first electronic autopilot. In 1995, ATK entered the aerospace, not Euro. Sorry, I've been saying Eurospace, it's aerospace market with the acquisition of Hercules Aerospace Company, a division of Hercules Inc. Since then, ATK has become a supplier of aerospace and defense products to the US government and its allies and to their contractors. It also carries on the manufacture and sale of Hercules gunpowder lines. This is really important with where we're heading with what I'm going to tell you, okay? So remember the laundering of the money through defense contracts, space explorations, even down to your laying of the roads, okay, for the potholes. Laundering the money through all of this in relation to the crimes of the children because of the blood, and how this links in with the extension of life, in with the Vatican, in with the falsification of the three main Abrahamic faiths, or certainly an infiltration of them, and going back thousands and thousands of years, everybody, how this ties in with the blood of the children. This will be why you've got Egyptian exploration companies through the research at key times as well. In 2001, ATK acquired Thiokol, Thiokol, renaming it ATK Launch Systems in 2006, though it was still known within the industry by its original name. Thiokol was the sole manufacturer of reusable solid rocket motor used to launch the NASA space shuttle, which is being adapted for NASA's space launch system. Now remember, NASA, one letter short of an anagram of Satan. So deception, everybody. But the launches are on the 1st of April. This one was, and I know others have been 1st of April. April Fool's Day, everybody. NASA was originally founded in 1958, within 2 weeks of Charles being initiated to become the fake Prince of Wales. NASA was then involved, supposedly, in the first fake moon landing in 1969, within weeks of Charles becoming the Prince of Wales. It was then 2 years later that the World Economic Forum was created, which was used to launder the money around the world from the research in relation to the blood of the children in the organ harvesting, using, I suspect, the space race or space explorations to launder that money, defense contracts, conflicts, terrorism, linking it with the bloodstock trade of the horses, but also alongside the drug trafficking network that we're going to come to later, which is mind-blowing, the evidence that I've found and how that links to the actual office that I worked at as the only beat Bobby in a particular part of Bournemouth in 2008. Well, it was actually from 2006, but then I took my sergeant's exam, became a beat Bobby for that specific area of Bournemouth, where there was an office that we used to go to every now and then, okay, in a security office, and it links literally to that office, okay? And we're going to be talking about that later. So they were involved in the rockets. A search of company's house for Thiokol reveals one entry. A company called Morton International Limited that had been incorporated in 1930, I put the wrong number there, 1930 something, and had the name Morton Thiokol Limited. Exactly the same spelling from 1985 until 1989, when the World Wide Web was created for CERN. It has Linklaters and Panes on its incorporation document, which is the exact same company linking with the COVID vaccines straight away, immediately, to the COVID vaccines companies, AstraZeneca PLC, and one of the other ones. I think it's Pfizer. Straight to them, everybody. Now, Morton is the same surname as my wife's family, except it's got an E missing. I don't think that's going to be a coincidence, everybody. Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to get to the next screenshot. I've mentioned that. Also in 2001, the year of the World Trade Center disaster, ATK entered the sporting and law enforcement ammunition market with the acquisition of the ammunition business. Well, here you go. Now this will link in with the shooting and the foxes in all of this. This will be tying in with the horses again and the hunting. So let me just read that again. Also in 2001, ATK, that is involved in the rockets on the sides of the shuttle, became involved in sporting and law enforcement ammunition market with the acquisition of the ammunition. Where's that gone? With the acquisition of the, oh my god, I've lost myself. Acquisition of the ammunition business of Blount International. This acquisition made ATK the nation's largest manufacturer of ammunition. Here we go. This all makes sense, doesn't it? In 2009, ATK acquired Eagle Industries. And in 2010, ATK acquired Blackhawk Industries Products Groups Limited. I'm going to skip to the research of the rockets. In July 2022, Northrop, remember we're talking about Northrop, which we're going to come into in a minute. They're all linked together to these rockets on the side of the shuttle. In July 2022, Northrop CEO Kathy Warden was forced to deny reports that the Federal Trade Commission would break up the merger of the organisations. July 2022 is the same month that I asked Anthony Roberts to view the bank documents leading to his resignation that then triggered my whole investigation. Alliant Tech Systems. I mentioned that. No. Here we go. Right. A search for Northrop, remember that's the name of the company that's linked into these rockets, reveals Northrop Grumman Global Holdings Limited that was incorporated as TRW UK Holdings Limited in 1999. Alpha Searches and Formations is in its incorporation document. This is a criminal company with Chettlebergs of Temple Chambers, Temple Avenue, London on its incorporation document. It had already linked directly to Capita and the blood of the children by the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry. It also connects to the British Society for Immunology and quickly, to, remember what I said earlier, to Egyptology companies and Balfour Beatty in the research of information provided by Brian Harvey as shown elsewhere. Roger Campbell Wiltshire connects Northrop Grumman Global Holdings Limited to 16 companies, including Orbital ATK UK, which was mentioned in the research of them, and BAE Systems 2000 Pension Plans Trustees Limited, that had been incorporated as Total Chrome in 1998, with this likely being a reference to adrenochrome, the blood of tortured children. It had been a criminal company, had been incorporated with the same companies as Exborn Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began, linking to the NHS via Deborah Fleming. BAE Systems makes critical connections throughout the criminal network. We've just mentioned BAE Company, including directly to the cell towers, directly to the Flemings, directly to Jeffrey Epstein, to McDonald's, to the military, apparent blood of tortured children and vaccines, and much more, as shown in my research from the cell tower overlooking Fort William that I went up to in 2024, took photographs of the names on the equipment, researched that equipment, and it led to everything I've just telling you immediately in from it. Wiltshire also connects to, same surname, also connects to Pro Bono Group. I think, sorry. Oh, I'm getting tired. Wiltshire also connects to Solicitors Pro Bono Group. I missed the word. Linked directly to the goldsmiths in my research, directly to a goldsmith name, linked in the research, and also, I'm sorry to say, to a company called British Veterans Enterprise that has also been shown in the research of Kenneth Noy, that links to major areas of the criminal network and the blood of the tortured children into the bloodstock trade, the horse trade, as shown elsewhere. And remember, we've been mentioning the links to Kenneth Noy, the research, all the way through this evening. This is coming in from the actual companies involved in those rockets that linked, and I only got that from the research of the chariots used by Rome, leading to the horses, leading to the rockets, leading to me identifying this evidence. It's not a coincidence, everybody. A Companies House search for Ministry of Housing. Right, so now I'm going to talk about land registry. Okay, so a different subject here. I'm just going to have a little break. All right, have a little break, everybody. I'm just going to have a little drink and a snack. So just do the same, maybe. Try and get more people to come on, right? Because this next evidence that I'm going to be talking to you about is it's all very important. But we're going to be talking about land registry and how they are taking over the world through fake land registry, leading in to the end of all of creation after that, okay, as part of a deception to draw people in through the taking over the world and the one world order, with them thinking they're going to be getting the land and they're going to be getting money and they're going to have all of these riches, when actually they are all going to be deceived by the... Oh, I've accidentally banned someone. They are all going to be deceived by the end of creation, according to the research. I'll come back in. I'm going to come back in 5 minutes. I don't know whether to end the live, actually. I'll leave it on here. Come back in 5 minutes. Ow. What can I have to eat? I need a torch. Bag of nuts. Got so much fruit. I eat so much fruit now, which is good. And I'm in a tent. I could have a bit of that. Come on, that's easy to eat, quick. sandwich, haven't I? That'll keep me going for now. Okay. Right. It's a shame I'm not a bit younger, because I could cope with this a lot. And I mean, I'm coping absolutely fine, but I am every day. I'm thinking, oh my goodness me, I'm not getting any younger, and you know, I'm in a tent, and I don't know where I'm going to be living. I don't know how I'm going to. But I've got to stop thinking like that. I just have to put myself in check every now and then and realise, you know, this is such an important thing. I've just got to keep doing and have faith that everything will be all right. So we're going to be talking about the land registry side of things, and the reason I've looked into this a bit more is because they have stolen the property from me. It's completely criminal. What they're doing is they're using forged, well, they're documents that aren't even legitimate through the court system. Yeah, I am keeping the faith. I'm doing all right. Thank you very much for your comment. I'm doing fine in the circumstances. It's just a bit, obviously, every now and then it's a little bit challenging. And as I get older, obviously it's going to be a bit more challenging. But I don't think we've got long to resolve this, to be honest with you. But where is it? So what they did with my situation is they sent my wife in. It was a staged introduction. I think that's possibly going to be because there's something going to be very relevant to me in all of this. But I think they have been doing that with a lot of people. So staging introductions, infiltrating through relationships to then steal people's assets. So in my case, what happened was, obviously there was this staged introduction 18 years ago, whatever, and then come forward to the last sort of year or two, a fake non-molestation order was created by the police because they realised they were in serious trouble and they needed to silence me. So they thought they could do it through taking everything from me, all right, taking all my assets from me, silencing me financially. So that's what they're now trying to do. So set up a fake non-molestation order to try and prevent me from having contact with my wife after she separated. So she's probably being, I'm almost certain, being directed in what she's doing. However, there's no excuse for this now. She could have got in a tent, she could have stayed with me, she could have separated from what she's part of, but she's not. So she's guilty in all of this. But she, I believe. So we separated. They set up a non-molestation order, fake one, which meant I couldn't, in theory, have contact with my wife. But I've been sending stuff anyway because it's fake. It's a fake non-molestation order. But they then tried forcing me to go through a criminal solicitor that was set up, linked to the blood of the children, into the criminal network, the main company in the fraud, and tried getting me to attend court dates. Now that would have given them, and they did that, to attend court dates, and that would have got me in a location at a particular time to have gotten rid of me as the exposure becomes harder for them to be able to deal with. And of course, because I knew there was a criminal connection to the solicitor and the documents they were producing, I could tell they were not legitimate. I basically said, well, I'm not going to go anywhere, and stop contacting me. I need to have contact with somebody. If it's not going to be with my wife, it needs to be somebody within the family who I can at least have a discussion with about how we're going to deal with our joint property. So they were trying to use the property to get to me. And they set up this massive bill that my wife claims to have built up with solicitors, insurance and stuff like that, and all these other things. £40,000. Okay. completely made up. Probably there's probably no cost whatsoever. There was no proof of receipts or anything like that through this criminal solicitor. So they're saying I then need to pay that money for her costs in this using documents. So they then produced a document which they claimed was a court order with no name on the bottom of who created that document. So it doesn't exist legally. Okay, you can't enforce anything if you haven't got a document that's suitably endorsed by its creator. Anybody could have created that document. So they deliberately left no name on the bottom of that document, telling me that I need to pay a certain amount of money. Okay, so I'm submitting police reports all of the time. Every time this is coming in, I'm saying, look, you've got criminal organisation here. They're not doing this on these documents. Here's the evidence why they're criminal. I've got all of it, can prove everything. They're linked to child trafficking, Jimmy Savile, etc., etc. I cannot comply or have any engagement with a criminal organisation. Everything they're doing is a crime. Now, of course, it would have been a crime for a very long time, but I didn't know about this. And obviously the evidence is now overwhelming. So they then suddenly took over £15,000 from my account. So I emailed the court with this document and said, look, who's authorised this payment through a court order? Because here's the court order, there's no name on the bottom of it. Oh, we don't know, we can't say who authorised it. This is the court that supposedly authorised that payment, okay? So what they then did is they then said that the property had been put just in my wife's name. So in effect, what they've done is they've stolen now, because I've lost half of the value of the property where there's no mortgage. So that's about £175,000, okay, they've taken in the half of the property. The Exbourne Manor property is worth nothing because there's no fire risk assessment. All right, so I've been duped by the management company that links to the blood of the children. Remember, this links to the NHS. So that was a property that I had from 2007. It's probably would have been worth about 200,000. But of course, it's worth nothing, and I've been paying my mortgage into it for years. So hundreds of thousands of pounds lost. And you can't attend court with a document that doesn't even have a creator on the document. Doesn't have a creator name on it. It's not even a legitimate document. After any document, for it to be legitimate and enforceable, you have to have a creator at least at the bottom of that document. They deliberately had nothing on it. And of course, what they were trying to set up is the ability to unalive me. All right, so they removed the name. And so, of course, within, and you're going to see some information here in a minute, within the land registry, they have someone who is involved in the criminal network. So they'll use these forged documents to steal the property and re-register a property in somebody else's name. So that's what they're doing. In the bank, they've got somebody that is working to enact the fraudulent transactions. You can guarantee that the people on the fraud department within the banks are part of the fraud. All right, everything's been inverted. This is why you have the serious fraud office. They're actually running the fraud or involved in the fraud. This is why action fraud is linked to the fraud. I've got the evidence. Okay, it's all inverted, the whole thing. This is why charities are actually being used to launder money in relation to the problems that the charities are there for. It's a problem, reaction, solution, criminal network. And it's all been a lie, the whole thing. Anyway, let's have a look at land registry. Now, they brought in a new head of land registry as the exposure of the fraud continued. And he is linked to the fraud. I've got to do a little bit more research on him. And I'm in the process of sending emails and trying to get my property back and the money. So also, just quickly on the a little bit of information I'm trying to acquire is thanks to somebody else. They mentioned shuttle horses, because obviously we're talking about the shuttle, space shuttle, and the linking with the horses. There's actually shuttle horses, or shuttle stallions they're called, and they are breeding stallions that travel between the northern and southern hemispheres to work in 2 breeding seasons per year. This practice maximizes breeding opportunities, often moving horses between Kentucky or Europe and Australia, with popular examples including Fossalchi, Pegasus, and Giant's Causeway. I'm in the process of doing a bit more research around that. So, Land Registry have to report to the Ministry of Housing, Community and Local Government. And when you search that on Companies House, it reveals Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government connected to Coalfields Business Developments Partnership. Okay, so it makes this link to this company. They've been incorporated in 2004 and it dissolved in 2021. It connects to the fraud immediately by Hammonds on its incorporation document. Hammonds makes links to the NHS again, okay, which means a link to the blood and the organ harvesting again and everything we're talking about. It connects to the fraud by Hammonds. David Anthony Malpass is shown as having been a person of significant control. A separate search shows... Thank you very much for your comment. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Shows duplicate records for that name. One connected to 5 companies, including Central Technology Belt, that had been incorporated in 2003 and has Jordan's, the main company in the fraud, on its incorporation document, links to Exbourne Manor, and Lee Crowder Solicitors, along with various chambers of commerce companies on its incorporation document, making the link to the criminal network. Susan Battle is in the People record and connects Central Technology Belt to 20 companies, including various chambers of commerce companies and British chambers of commerce. According to its overview, British Chambers of Commerce was incorporated as Association of British Chambers of Commerce in brackets the in 1875, before its name was changed for the only time in 1996 on the lead up to the World Trade Center disaster deception. Its attached documents shows that it was incorporated as Association of Chambers of Commerce of the United Kingdom in 1875, meaning its register has been forged and it is a criminal organisation. British Chamber of Commerce, this exact company, had already been linked directly to the leader, the head, the Grand Master of the Grand Mason Lodge of Ireland. Straight away. So there you go. Not only does it link to the Grand Master of the Grand Mason Lodge, the Freemasons Lodge of Ireland, it links quickly to MacLeod and McCallum LLP, the solicitors that I attended in Inverness as part of a strategy to stop the fraud a week to the day before my arrest. And they connect to major areas of the criminal network, and it seems they connect to Donald Trump's family via a MacLeod name. His mother's name was MacLeod. She lived on the Isle of Lewis off the coast of Scotland, which becomes relevant elsewhere in the evidence. There's other Lewis Islands connections as well in that document now. What was I going to say about this? Now, the mention here, the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Ireland. Ireland is very, very important in all of this, okay? Ireland, historically, is critical, and it's also important in relation to the fox hunting because they didn't ban it in Northern Ireland, and it appears as though Ireland was also part of the hub, if you like, of the mafia around the world when you look at it historically. And this is very likely how the deception surrounding the IRA began, and the linking with the mafia. And it is a deception, everybody. It's a collaborative deception from people on both sides all the way through this, all the way through the conflicts, and how that links in with the blood of the children, the drug trafficking alongside it, etc. Now, a lot of them won't know about the ultimate agenda. It's very important that you understand this. A very small number of people will know about the plan of the end of creation in all of this. And that is why this evidence has the ability to unite the entire world, even those that have been involved in the crimes against the children, in terms of, you know, at least bringing a new earth to safeguard the rest of creation. Because if we don't, then it looks like the world is in serious trouble. So we have this link to the Grand Master of Ireland. Battle, the same person we're looking at, also connects to the Academy of Youth Limited. That had been incorporated in 1997, and it dissolved on the 26th of February 2026, not long ago, as the exposure continued. It has PKF GM of Canary Wharf as its registered address, with PKF companies making important connections to the criminal network, including, guess what, to David Icke again, and the research from Kenneth Noy again, and to the Rochdale grooming gang scandal in the research of the death of Sarah Everard. The Canary Wharf address connects to the research of Sherborne in Dorset, the Israel attacks, Manchester Arena bombing, and the apparent crimes against humanity as shown elsewhere in the research. Sir Timothy Robert Brighouse connects the Academy of Youth Limited to 13 companies, including Outward Bound Global. And Outward Bound Global, Jimmy Savile was a former director. And it connects to Donald Trump via this company, to the Royals, to major areas of the criminal network, to the Mazzini Albert Pike document research and earthquake companies, linking to Madeleine McCann and the skin apparently being worn by Prince Harry around the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, all coming in from this company, linking in to the research of the land registry. Now, of course, it says within the Albert Pike letter, remember the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini, that plan, the three world deception, was to take over the world, but then ultimately lead to the light of Lucifer. As I keep saying, I think they've used that, taking over the world, as a way to entice people in to the criminal network to support them through promises of land, promises of money, corruption of drugs, the corruption of sex, possibly promises of salvation in a falsified apocalyptic event, natural event, i.e. a place in the tunnel system. Don't go into those tunnels, everybody, because they will flood. Remember, my favourite movie is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I think there's a reason for that. All right, in a minute we're going to be talking about some connections to me that are really quite mind-blowing in this. And again, you can verify everything I'm telling you. So we have this Brighouse person connected to the company where Jimmy Savile was a director. Research shows Timothy Robert Peter Brighouse was a British educator, and he died in 2023 as I was starting to expose the fraud, everybody. Lots of them are appearing to die as I'm exposing things. And I say to them again, please, if you're not going to come out and speak the truth and save the children and save creation, end your lives to bring this to an end, everybody. You know, those that are involved in this, please, you need to do one of these things. We cannot allow the children to be tortured, abused for their blood. We cannot allow the end of creation. So he was a commissioner for London. Sorry, he was the schools commissioner for London. So a very prominent position between 2002, after the World Trade Center disaster, and 2007, when Madeleine McCann went missing and Exbourne Manor became was incorporated. And he led the London Challenge. Brighouse was born in Leicestershire in 1940 and was brought up there and in East Anglia, and was educated in Loughborough Grammar School, Lowestoft County Grammar School, and St Catherine's College, Oxford. Brighouse took his PGCE at the Oxford University Department of Education in 1961, when JFK was positioned as part of the crimes against humanity. He began his career as a school teacher, becoming a deputy head in South Wales Secondary Modern School in 1966, the year of the establishment of the Church of Satan. South Wales is obviously where Charles had been initiated to become the Prince of Wales in 1958. same year that NASA was created. And in 1969, 3 years after this, after the foundation of the Church of Satan, is when Charles became the Prince of Wales. Fake Prince of Wales. Whilst he was at Birmingham, he was described by Conservative Education Secretary John Patton as a madman, wandering the streets, frightening the children. Linked to Jimmy Savile, everybody. Brickhouse sued and won substantial damages, which he donated to charity. He used it, it's unbelievable. That money would have gone straight back into the child trafficking network. He used some of it to step up the University of the First Age to encourage out-of-hours activities. Yeah, I bet he did. To enrich school children's learning. Unbelievable. In May 1997, Brickhouse was awarded an honorary degree from the Open University as Doctor of University. Brickhouse was the school's commissioner. I've said that. He was married to Elizabeth, who is the leader of the Labour group on Oxfordshire County Council. Oxford is where the Maxwells were very prominent. They had 4 children and 8 grandchildren. Brickhouse died on the 15th December 2023. Referring back to Mulpass, remember this was the name, duplicate record right at the beginning on this, where we look at this evidence. They also connected Crew Golf Course Limited, where they had been appointed in 2023 and resigned in March 2026 as the exposure continued. The company had been incorporated in March 1965, and it has Jordan and Sons Limited on its incorporation document, the main company in the fraud linking to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigations began. Golf clubs appear to be centralised to the fraud, and of course Donald Trump is relevant with his golf course in Scotland that links straight to Jimmy Savile, Royals and Collider Technology, and to the Vatican. John Driver connects Crew Golf Club Limited to Cheshire and North Wales Law Society. They have been incorporated as Chester North Wales Incorporated Law Society in brackets the in 1881, before its name was changed for the only time, according to its overview, in 2016, after the Pizzagate scandal became exposed. Very important everyone understands here. I mean, it's very clear from the evidence that Pizzagate scandal really did start to rock the boat for them, because that started to create the exposure of the blood of the children in all of this, linking through the Clinton apparent incident. If it was real, you know, it looks as though it was from all of this evidence, where the skinning of children was linking to the system, okay, because it linked to the government of the US, you see. So that would start to expose what I'm talking about. And of course we had 3 years later, we had the COVID situation linking with cell towers. Its attached documents show that shows that its register has been forged, as is the case for every law society company that I've seen. Norman Rowlinson connects Crew Golf Course Limited to 9 companies, including Crew Alexandra Football Club Limited, in brackets that have been incorporated in 1899, and has a forged register and Jordan and Sons on its incorporation document again. Raymond Saint connects Crew Golf Club Limited to Masonic Hall South Cheshire Limited, that have been incorporated in 1971, the same year as the World Economic Forum, and it has Jordan and Sons Limited on its incorporation document, making a direct link to Exbourne Manor. This is a company called Masonic Hall South Cheshire, so a link to the Freemasons yet again. John Derek Adams connects Crew Golf Club Limited to 7 companies, including Lockerbie Sawmill Limited, that have been incorporated as Rowlinson Case Limited in 1985, 3 years before the Lockerbie bombing, before its name was changed in 1993. Remember, this company is called Lockerbie Sawmill Limited, but look where it leads. It's very interesting. It dissolved in 2024 as I continued the exposure, even though it had been around for a while. As several of its directors connect to Cube International Limited. Cube International, that have been incorporated in 1992. the same year as the Catholic Church became a legal entity and the company's house started to become electronic. And it dissolved in 2018 after the Pizzagate scandal had been exposed. It had been a criminal company, having been incorporated with the same company as Exborn Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. So Cube International, everybody. A separate search shows Cube International Limited, with LTD on it rather than the full name, that had been incorporated in January 2019 on the lead up to the COVID deception, and it is shown as being in the process of liquidation. Andrew Robert Graham connects this company to 22 companies, including Montrose Graham Holdings Limited, and a James Robert Graham had already connected Hereford Pegasus Football Club FC to Montrose Graham Holdings Limited, and a James Robert Graham had already connected sorry, let me read that again. It's because I've gone on to another screenshot. So within this company we're looking at, you've got Andrew Robert Graham connecting Cube International Limited to Montrose Graham Holdings Limited. Okay, well, a James Robert Graham, almost identical name, had already been connected to Hereford Pegasus FC Limited to Montrose Conveyancing. So we've got an almost identical name with one name slightly different from another area of research linking to another Montrose company. And guess where that was? Linked directly to Puff Daddy Limited, a company called Puff Daddy Limited. The P. Diddy scandal, child trafficking, coming in from the Cube International. Now, why is this important? Andrew Robert Graham connects various Thrive companies to various Thrive companies from this company. And those Thrive companies include Thrive Military and Thrive Defence Limited. I suspect Cube International refers to Cube of Satan or Saturn, and this supports the international conflict deception is being used to launder money in relation to the blood of the innocent. Now, the Cube of Saturn suggests that there's an infiltration of the three Abrahamic faiths through that cult. Now, it's very clear they have no belief in a moral conscience creator. Well, we know that belief is disillusioned, is not true, because we know there's a moral conscience in creation. So we know that they're not believing in, and of course, even they would not want themselves to be harmed generally, and even they would not want to be stolen from. And yet here they are, stealing from everyone, harming everyone. So we know it's an inversion of the creator. And when you look at the fear of the death, that links in with this. I think it's a fear of faith, or a lack of faith, and a fear of death that's behind this, and actually not a belief in another deity. I think it's a fear of death and a lack of belief in a creator. And I think this is why the blood of the children is so important to them, and the organ harvesting. And this linking in with the three Abrahamic faiths as a deception, certainly an infiltration of those three Abrahamic faiths, and everyone being deceived. Yes, you have the cube is important in all of this. So if you were to have the crucifix from Christianity laid out, and you could fold it into a cube. If it was a bit of paper, for example, you can actually fold it into a square. Well, that makes a cube. You've got the cube of Mecca, which is one of the most, if not the most important locations for Islam, for the Muslim faith. And then you have a cube within the Star of David as well. And I think what they set up is the ability to make it seem as though it was aliens by the satanic cube, because that stems from a story that they claimed, I believe now this is a deception, I suspect based on my evidence, on Saturn. Well, you wouldn't have been able to see that when that started, so that would have meant you're talking alien life forms. To having seen that on Saturn, back when that was supposedly identified. I think that information was put in place deliberately to then use that to facilitate an alien deception, to explain away, when it was required, everything that I'm talking about, the blood of the children to extend the life, and that being the real issue, the fear of death, lack of faith, blood, organ harvesting, extend life, and how that all relates. And I think, based on my evidence at the moment, I suspect that the cube of Saturn was a deception to set up the ability to bring in the fake alien invasion and that side of things, and the lizard people and the shapeshifters. So we have this link to P. Diddy. It seems too much of a coincidence there, almost the same name, same company, Montrose, linking in with Cube International. That's so we know we've got the blood of the children linking in with the P. Diddy side of things, and not just from this part, from many other parts of the research. So we're going to talk about the evidence now surrounding the funeral director that was recently convicted. This is really important, and they must have known that I was going to find this. Maybe not, but everything I'm seeing on the news is to do with what I'm doing. It may have been deliberate. On the 2nd of April 2026, an article stated a funeral director has admitted preventing the burials of 30 bodies and stealing donations made to charities by mourners. Excuse me. Robert Bush, 48, was arrested after police investigated Hull-based Legacy independent funeral directors following a report of concern for care of the deceased in March 2024. Bush, formerly of East Yorkshire and now living in West Yorkshire, pleaded guilty at Hull Crown Court on 30 counts of preventing a lawful and decent burial, and one of the theft in relating to charitable donations. Legacy Independent Funeral Directors, this company that he's linked to, have been incorporated in 2010 and is shown as being in the process of liquidation. As an address in Yorkshire, which is where he's based, this is an important area in relation to Jimmy Savile, who lived in Leeds, and Yorkshire is critical in the research of the Roman infiltration of the United Kingdom, or Roman settlements. Yorkshire appears to be a very, very important area, and that is where fox hunting first began. And fox hunting appears to be linking in with the hunting of the children on estates in all of this, and that ties back in with the blood of the children, of course. Legacy Independent, I'll mention that. (2010) as addressed in Yorkshire, yeah. Okay. It has on its incorporation document, companies made simple. This makes the link to the paedophile information exchange and the World Trade Center disaster again. The filing history shows that its registered address was changed soon after registration. This is what a lot of the companies are doing, okay? So they'll give a registered address, change it straight afterwards, avoiding the accountability and liability and trying to get away with their criminal network. An application was made to strike the company from the register in early 2022, as I was making early inquiries at Exbourne Manor. The last entry on the filing history is from June 2024, even though it's not even gone from the register yet. It's not even been liquidated, suggesting Companies House has removed information from its filing history. It's also almost guaranteed. You're not going to have absolutely no entries from June 2024 until now. No way. So that's Companies House are hiding the evidence through the filing history by removing all of that filing history, all right, in relation to this article. And that's our government hiding that. And I've screenshotted all of this. I've got all of this evidence secured to prove all of this. And you can go and verify it. So this suggests they could be hiding the evidence that would support that this was being used for organ harvesting and the linked crimes against the children, and potentially the remains of the bodies going into the food chain. A Vicky Bush, born 1969, is in the People record. A separate search shows a Vicky Bush, born 1988. So it's different date of birth, but remember there's no verification at all. I suspect it's going to be related because it links to Heretic London Limited that had been incorporated in June 2011 between the Christchurch earthquake and Jimmy Savile's death. It dissolved in 2016 as the Pizzagate scandal was being exposed, and it has Duport Associates on its incorporation document. Duports make quick connections to the centralised criminal network, including the following: to Julian Assange's mother in the Doomsday Cult, to a company called the World Black Economic Forum, to the researcher Bill Maloney, who publicised the Hort de la Garonne children's deaths on Jersey, immediately to Richard Moore, the former head of MI6, and having the same address of CAPB Limited that was had a former name of Fleming and Co. Limited, meaning the Flemings. Immediately to the company Sacred Cow Limited, remember what I mentioned earlier, and Bloodstock companies in the research of Sarah Ferguson. This is coming in from this undertaker. Quickly to a company called Kidfest, everybody, and Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and the apparent infiltration of the royal family. To Nicole Kidman, to the Aran Butcher, a company called the Aran Butcher on an island in the research of Cyril Smith and the apparent crimes against children and a threat from directed energy. Remember the islands linked to Ghislaine Maxwell via an informal parliamentary island group set up by Bob Seeley, who was the MP for Isle of Wight. Islands are very important in all of this. All right, they're tax havens. They are money laundering locations. Money laundering in relation to the blood, torture, murder of children, organ harvesting, crimes against children, and how that ties in with all of this. And you have, as I've said, an Aran Butcher, literally Aran as in the name of the island. I think it's an island, Aran, and a butcher. They've literally got a company called the Aran Butcher. Unbelievable. And there's a bit, when you go in and you'll see that on the document, you can see the research surrounding that. Remember, we've got a link straight to Sacred Cow Limited. I suspect cow means child, or those of the innocents that are being butchered and targeted by this, and directly to bloodstock companies. All right, that's in the research of Sarah Ferguson. From this, straight away, we're talking straight away in these connections. Okay. We've got, as I said, Aran Butcher from, remember, the research of Cyril Smith. We've already mentioned that in relation to the Rochdale evidence. He was linked to the crimes against children and also links to radar companies, the threat of directed energy. And this company that we're talking about links to UBG Corporation Limited, that is directly linked to a Ukraine company that links to Exbourne Manor and the Flemings. It also links to the Belfort Drilling Services Limited company. And that is shown in the research of companies being used for the new Future Circular Collider program, where they are trying to build a larger collider facility. It will have the ability, where they failed previously, to end all of creation. This is immediate links, everybody. Immediately to, leading on to Deborah Evershed, linking to Juliette Lewin and Jane Evershed, working with Sasha Stone, who has links to the blood of tortured children again, and his apparent links to the black nobility of the Vatican. To Jennifer Grants from the University of Portsmouth, shown in the research of the death of Sarah Everard. To UK, literally a company called UK Halal Foods Limited, and blood drained from animals possibly being used in transfusions. To Automat Services Limited, in the evidence of the government-issued police radios and a threat to police military via those radios. That Automat service, I suspect, relates to laundromat, and laundering the money. They even put it in the company names. There's a lot of laundrette companies I see, and laundry and stuff like this throughout the research. It also links to Brand New Start Limited in the research of George Floyd's death, leading to further bloodstock companies, as shown elsewhere in the document. Now, that heretic name in that company, what does heretic mean? Well, it means a person whose opinions or actions that contradict established religious dogma or official doctrines or generally accepted beliefs. In other words, what I'm saying, where they don't have a belief, where they don't have a faith, and they go against those written beliefs that instills moral conscience. Remember, because that was a heretic company. Ben James Jacob Rubin connects Heretic London Limited to Elite Plumbing London Limited. Elite, okay, that had been incorporated in 2008 and dissolved in 2010. It has Apex Company Services Limited and Apex Corporate Limited on its incorporation document, linking to the research of my mother's employer and to the NHS via her employer, to Exbourne Manor, where my investigation began, and major areas of the criminal network, and via my mum's company, my mum's employer's company called Barron Medical Limited. It links directly to the same road 3.5 hours away than where my mum lives in Bournemouth, to Exbourne Manor, where that links on its incorporation document, and the same road links to Jimmy Savile's building that's connected to Exbourne Manor, and that then links directly again via that address to JFK family, John F. Kennedy's family. An infiltration. This has been going on for a very long time, everybody. Another record shows a Robert Bush with the same year of birth as the Undertaker, connected to Imperial Imports Limited, been incorporated in 2015, and also has the Duports company on it that we've just shown how it's all connected. A separate search shows Imperial Imports and Exports, so slightly different name with exports added, that have been incorporated in 2016, and it dissolved on the 30th of April 2019, soon after Julian Assange's apparent arrest, as Companies Made Simple on its incorporation document, again linking to the Paedophile Information Exchange and the World Trade Center disaster research. Syed Kazim Hussein Rizzi, and a separate search of this name shows pages of duplicate records, giving the ability to launder money through those organizations in relation to the organ harvesting. Another record, a separate record for a Robert Bush, we can assume it's probably going to be him, because it's called Cremations Direct Limited, that had been incorporated in September 2020, and it dissolved in 2023 as I escalated the exposure. It also has Companies Made Simple on its incorporation document, making the link to the World Trade Center disaster and the Paedophile Information Exchange again. I remember John O'Looney, an Undertaker, also links to Companies Made Simple, and he was an Undertaker. Right. This is the evidence we're going to be talking about with the international drug trafficking, and how it links to, very personally to me, far too quickly to be a coincidence. Now, obviously, I'm not involved in drug trafficking. I'm trying to stop the drug trafficking. But this just blew me away. And this was thanks to somebody else prompting me to do a little bit more research around the Flemings. So we're going to be talking initially about Valentine Fleming. He was born in 1882, died in 1917, which is the same year as the Balfour Declaration. He was a Scottish Conservative Member of Parliament, which will be linking with the Freemasons. Remember, the main Freemasons lodge, active one, is in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and that is where the Reformation began in the 13th century, everybody. So the Reformation forming governments and setting up this money laundering system through the governments, going right back then. I suspect they were even planning it in relation to the blood of the children. He was killed in the First World War. He was the father of the author, according to this, he was the father of authors Peter Fleming and Ian Fleming, the latter who created the James Bond character. Born in Newport on Tay, Fife, Fleming was the son of Sarah Hindmarsh. Interesting. Hindmarsh, same surname as Kerry. I think she's Hindmarsh, or this was somebody that ended up was trying to support me and then turned on me. Interesting, that could be a connection there. And Robert Fleming, a wealthy Scottish banker who we've already mentioned earlier. Okay, so we've already got a link in with what we were saying earlier. Remember, you got Robert Fleming Co. Limited. I mentioned it on the research, so we have this link into this already from what we've been talking about tonight. A wealthy Scottish banker and founder of the merchant bank Robert Fleming and Co. Exactly what we're talking about. Fleming was educated at Eton College and Magdalen College, Oxford. He married Evelyn Beatrice St. Crow Rose in London on the 15th of February 1906. Together they had 4 sons: adventurer and travel writer Peter, father of actress Lucy Fleming, novelist Ian, author of the James Bond novels, Richard, whose son is a billionaire, and Adam Fleming. From 1906 to 1911, the family lived at Braziers Park in Ipsden, Oxfordshire. On his election to Parliament, they moved to Pitt House on Hampstead Heath in 1910, the area of the important Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry that links to the blood of the children. He was a member of Parliament between 1910 and 1917, when the Balfour Declaration involving the Rothschilds started to foment Israel, leading to the Albert Pike World War deception, linking him with the blood of the children. In 1916, they built a shooting lodge at Arnsdale, near Glenelg, in Inverness, Northshire of the Scottish Highlands, north of Iona. This becomes relevant in a minute in relation to the Iona prophecy and the end of the world. Valentine Fleming is shown as having been connected to 23 companies, including Dunedin Worldwide Investment Trust, that had been incorporated in 1896 and is shown as being in liquidation, and with KPMG in its registered address, making important connections throughout the research, including immediately to Amanda Pearson, who was positioned as the Dorset Chief Constable after Scott Chilton was moved, as I continued my exposure. And she links to the apparent skinning of children alive via the research. Valentine Fleming also connects to RF Trustee Co. Limited, that had already featured in the research of the World Trade Center disaster, and immediately linking to BlackRock companies shown throughout the fraud. Valentine Fleming also connects to Kent Wildlife Trust, that is shown in the research of the death of John McPhee, and linking directly to Institute of Heraldic and Genealogical Studies, that had already featured in the research of John Harris, who had been talking about Companies House but not the fraud, and a company appearing to relate to the Knights of Malta and a Jerusalem company, as shown elsewhere. I link very quickly to those organisations via my former school. Valentine Fleming also connects to Undershaft NUL Limited, that had been incorporated as Provident Mutual Management Pension Funds Limited in 1973, when the World Trade Center disaster had been completed and the SWIFT international transaction system had started to be used in the fraud. It's also the same year, those of you who have been following me will know that Soylent Green movie, appearing to make reference to me in 2022, was released. Also, my dad's favourite movie that led to the evidence being acquired of the monarch butterfly leading to a mortal man, the movie Papillon, was also released in 1973. Its name was last changed in December 2001. Hold on, let's go back. Yeah, it was last changed in December 2001, 3 months after the World Trade Center disaster, and then again in December 2011, 2 months after Jimmy Savile's death. Remember, the Flemings are linked to Jimmy Savile. They lived, not the ones that initiated my removal, but their family members lived in Glencoe, in the same valley that Jimmy Savile lived, or they had a property there. Undershaft companies linked directly to Gary Nigel Withers in the research of the 3-Eye Atlas Comet deception, and linking to Their World, a company called Their World. Now, I've done more research around that, and that relates to children, talking about Their World. I was thinking, okay, maybe that's going to relate to the alien side of this, but it's not. I've gone more into it, and it relates to children. And then that links into UNICEF and the United Nations via that research. And to, is it Alison Brown, that was Gordon Brown's wife? She set up Their World. Okay, she was the one that set it up. And it also links via this research to the Doherty family, that appear to have originated in Ireland 1,000 years before Christ. Now that's important historically. Remember what I've been talking about Ireland in all of this, and the link into the infiltration of the 3 main Abrahamic faiths in this, including Christianity. It also links to Jack Leon Gordon, the former husband of LaToya Jackson, in the research of the death of Michael Jackson, to a company called Hunter Trading Limited, shown in the research of organ harvesting, and I suspect the hunting element will link to the hunting of the children, to Crime Watch Trust in the research of the death of Jill Dando and leading to Deraya companies linking to the Vatican, to Cyber and Fraud Centre Scotland Limited, connected to Police Scotland Assistant Chief Constable. Oh, have I got that there? Constable, oh yeah, I have. Steve Ashley Johnson. Well, this now becomes relevant to me personally, because remember, I was arrested in Scotland. Every bit, well, loads of areas within the court. I mean, it was well worth me losing my van, to be honest with you. £20,000 I've lost for that, lost with my van. But by going through that process, I managed to acquire so much evidence and expose the entire system by getting arrested, going through the police, going through the prison service, and getting out the other side alive. It was a very challenging time, I can tell you that, for 12 days, trying to stay alive. But I managed to get evidence going through it, exposing the prison service and all of them linking in with the blood of the tortured children now, right? Which now proves the whole system has been set up around the suffering of the children. And again, I say, any of you involved in this, if you're not going to come out and speak the truth and assist in a new earth, then please take your lives so that the rest of humanity and children will be saved from this. Valentine Fleming also connects to Crosby Sterling Holdings Limited, that was incorporated in 1993 and dissolved in 2021 after I moved back to Exbourne Manor. It has St Paul's, where's it gone? It has one St Paul's churchyard used throughout the fraud on its incorporation document. Many companies, as shown from page 7 on the incorporation document, including many Robert Fleming companies and some Crosby companies, linking to Andrew Charles Armstrong. And on page 8 shows a Peter Lindsay Orjo Jameson, connected to various Robert Fleming companies as well, and Jardine companies. All right, this starts to become critical now, possibly making links to the international opium trade research. Also, there's Aegis companies there. There's more Crosby companies. This becomes important in a minute. And there's a Kleinwort Overseas Investment Trust, which is critical because this makes links to the German company Commerzbank that was set up in 1870, linking to the research of the infiltration of the Vatican in that year, followed by the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini in the following year. There are many Fleming, JP Morgan and Bear Stearns companies linked to directors in the company, making immediate connections to the research of Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was linked to Bear Stearns. Those same Bear Stearns companies are linked immediately to the cell tower overlooking the Fort William in Scotland that I attended. If you're living in Fort William now, there is a direct threat from that tower at the very least, but all world cell towers. Particularly now we have this variant of the COVID outbreak. They're now panicking, and it looks as though they are trying to cause mass illness across the world using this new COVID variant that we spoke about at the beginning of all of this. And I would say almost certain that the cell towers are what are causing that illness, or there is no illness and they want me to believe there is, so that I potentially trigger the 3 days of darkness by getting you to disable the cell towers to create a blackout. This is one of the things I have to consider. However, based on the evidence, do I think there's a threat from cell towers? Well, I can tell you now, I've been excessively tired, more than I normally am. I think a lot of people are feeling the same. So, you know, the trouble is, disabling the cell towers could lead us into the 3 days of darkness, which then means we're leading into the trap of the falsified prophecies. However, do we take the risk if they are really using those cell towers to cause harm to us all. Now, someone mentioned it, a really good way of putting it is, and you would have heard this, I'm sure, if you put a frog, and I would never do this because I love all animals, but it's a good way to explain it. If you put a frog in water, please do not anybody do this. If you put a frog in water and you slowly boil that water, the frog doesn't realize that it's being boiled alive. Okay, this is the strategy that they're doing with everything at the moment. They can't suddenly enact their agenda suddenly because it will be too obvious. So we are the frogs. So we are basically being conditioned to accept the increasing punishment upon us. Okay, and I'm talking about that could be happening in the cell towers, through the cell towers. That's definitely happening within the system with what they're doing with the increase of the money, the costs everyone's having to incur. And you can see it all the way through the research, through what they're telling us, that they are making us worry about everything all of the time, and the taxes and the costs going up and the fuel costs, etc. Now this could explain why so you had the release from 2017. There was a release of the Deagle report, which suggested that suddenly from 2017 to 2025 there will be a dramatic decrease in the population in the United Kingdom, for example, down from 66 million to 14 million. Then, of course, over the last few days or few weeks, you had, and I haven't, obviously it's a shame I didn't screenshot it, there was other information coming out that the beginning of March they were going to enact a depopulation where 92% of the population was going to be gone. I think now they were deliberately staged to make us think something was going to suddenly happen, and it doesn't. And then we therefore, moving forward, we're thinking something's going to happen. It doesn't, but it's gradually happening. So they're trying to gradually do these things that potentially are we're being told about. Because if they do it suddenly, then we're frogs and we'll jump out of the water. Okay, so they have to do it in a way that doesn't expose them too quickly, I suspect. So I believe there's too much evidence around the cell towers. So the cell towers are definitely a threat, I believe, to at the very least people's health. At the worst, a potential ability to suddenly reduce the population if they increase the power through them to a certain extent. The devices that we're all being staring at, that we've been told or indoctrinated to stare at, to separate us from our creation through nature and turn to technology, is also, it seems, being used as a deceptive inversion to potentially lead to blinding us, and then tie in to the falsified prophecies of the revelations of making you seek death but not be able to find it. So in other words, have the ability to make you blind, provide you the promise of technology that will return your eyesight, and then trap your conscience in a body through transhumanism. This is why you've got Neuralink. If you don't believe in Neuralink, go and have a little look at it. It's possible it doesn't exist, and it's a deception for me to try and expose it all to get the world to change, possibly, but I can't take that risk. They're telling us that technology is real. They're showing us videos that these chips can be used to control people's bodies. Now, if they end up controlling the chips, there you go. It's the only way they can fulfill that fake, I believe, a false prophecy in that revelation, to make people seek death but not be able to find it. Trap your conscience in a body you cannot control. That's the only way they can achieve that. And then torture you for blood harvesting, for organ harvesting, or in any other ways. And there's nothing that you can do about it if they control your body, but your conscience is still there in that body. This is a real risk, everybody. Remember, you've got artificial intelligence. You've got this technological drive by the likes of Elon Musk. He's heavily implicated in all of this. It's very clear from this research. Now, interestingly, he also links very, very quickly to me. So we do have to think, and in a minute we're going to see a link directly into me from this. We do have to think, is this set up for me to expose all of this, to come forward and expose all of this because of somebody that I may be in this? And it looks as though they're trying to tell me that that may be the case. However, I can't take that risk. I still have to perceive these risks to be real, because we cannot allow the suffering of children. We cannot allow the end of creation. We must stop this. And again, those of you behind this, I'm sorry to keep saying this, please take your lives if you are not going to be part of the solution, everybody, and you are part of the problem. You need to protect the children and creation and the billions of other life forms that we have a duty to look after, to nurture, to take care of. We mustn't forget about that, because without them, we are nothing. Right, let's move forward with now Crosby Associates. Remember, we're talking about and the bees. Yeah, absolutely. We must protect the bees. Remember, we're talking about Valentine Fleming here, and these are all connected to him. Now, remember, he connects to Crosby Associates UK Limited. Well, that links via the research to Saturn Group Limited, shown in the research of the death of Michael Todd and of Manchester Police and Neil Monroe of Dorset Police. Now, that makes a link then to Saturn, again, to Saturnalia, to back to what I've been talking about, to the Cube element in this. We had the Cube international companies earlier, okay? I think that is very relevant. Connections are made from the death of Michael Jackson, which we've just mentioned there, to that organisation, so to Valentine Fleming, to the death of Stuart Lubbock in relation to Michael Barrymore, and a meat factory run by the same Crosby family that links to this Crosby Associates UK Limited. Okay, I've found a link to the death of Stuart Lubbock from that meat factory that he works at to Valentine Fleming. Now, we can therefore assume quite strongly that Stuart Lubbock, who supposedly died in that swimming pool, if he really died, which, you know, we have to consider he did, knew something about that meat factory that he was working at and how it related to the blood of the children and to the crimes and the blood and possibly the remains of the children and what happens to the remains of the children through the food factories. And it's possible he was going to speak out about that. We have to consider. Now, that also, via the research, that Crosby company linking to Stuart Lubbock, I have a link to 95% sure to Goldsmith connection via that as well. I'd have to go back and check that. Anyway. So we have those connections to this Crosby family coming in. We also have a link from this Crosby family and to Valentine Fleming to the Iona prophecy of the end of the world, okay, which links back to Ireland again. So St. Columba was somebody that was exiled, according to the research, from Ireland to Iona, a little island off the coast of the west of Scotland, and it's not that far south of where Valentine Fleming was living, okay? And the prophecy is that the world will end, and it links to a beam of light in relation somehow to that island. Now, there is evidence suggesting that Jesus and Mary Magdalene also has connections to that island. Now, the research suggests that certain family descendant groups from St. Columba's turned rogue against faith, and those family names appear to be linking into the research tying into Donald Trump. And remember, Donald Trump's mum was living on the Isle of Lewis, and his family, certainly his grandfather, originated from Bavaria in Germany, and Bavaria became part of the new German Empire in 1870, at the same year as the infiltration of the Vatican, after before the year of the Mazzini document written to the Albert Pike lecture written to Mazzini. Oh my goodness, 3.5 hours. Right. So we're still on Valentine Fleming. So we have the links to the Iona prophecy from this. So Jardine, we mentioned Jardine earlier in there. Jardine companies had been mentioned in the research of the international drug trafficking from China regarding shipping company Russell and Company, as shown elsewhere. Now, there's a lot of key Russell companies in all of this, linking into Jeffrey Epstein, linking into Harvey Weinstein, linking back into immediately, in fact, I've got a connection to Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and Harry's Shoes Limited, which links to Prince Harry, which ties into the skinning of Madeleine McCann a lot. Well, whether she was skinned alive or not, I don't know from the research, but very strong evidence that Prince Harry was wearing the skin of Madeleine McCann at the time of, or around the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. That's all linking immediately in now to, it looks like, this Russell connection and the international drug trafficking and the blood of the children running alongside the drug trafficking network. So Robert Fleming and Co, known as Flemings, Robert Fleming and Co, known as Flemings, was an asset manager and merchant bank founded in Dundee, Scotland in 1873. In 1909, the firm moved its headquarters to London in England. So it was in Scotland, which means a Freemason link, in 1873. So that's literally 100 years. What was it that happened in 1973? 2 years after the World Economic Forum. 1973 is when the World Trade Center disaster was finished in its completion. So that's relevant, isn't it? I'm just thinking, and that was started to be built in 1966, the year of the foundation of the Church of Satan. So 1873. Where's it gone? It was founded in 1873. In 1909, it moved its headquarters to London. That's the same year that the Special Intelligence Service was founded, which links to Ian Fleming, and that lead paint was banned in France, which is relevant to the apparent threat of directed energy from the cell towers. It was sold to Chase Manhattan Bank for over $7 billion in 2000. The Flemings was a 50% partner in Asian investment bank Jardine Fleming. So we have a link to Jardine, remember, already linked in via the research of the international drug trafficking, okay, from China. A name record for Dr. Serial Killer Harold Shipman had also been linked directly to a company called Jardine Marine Limited. And Shipman also links to my former friend and colleague in Dorset, Guy Briscoe, which links to the blood of the children. See how this is all tying in now, and this is all documented, everybody, in the document with verifiable evidence. Okay, so Guy Briscoe, you need to come forward right now. You need to be emailing me, contacting me, and come forward with the truth. Otherwise, I'm sorry to say, you need to take yourself out of the equation, Guy. All right, this is serious stuff we're talking about. Now, you may not have known about all of this, but it's now all being documented, Guy. So if there's any good in you, you need to come forward. You're probably going to be a Freemason. I'm almost certain you're going to be a Freemason. This would explain a lot about you, Guy. You must come forward with the truth and save children and humanity. You have a child, for crying out loud. Right. So we have this link to Jardine Fleming. Jardine is also linked to Lloyds Bank, okay, which makes sense now. Do you remember Lloyds Bank is shown on page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, and that links to my upbringing, okay, that company document. So we have Lloyds Bank companies linking to Jardines as well. Jardine also makes quick connections to the around this area of the research to the marriage between a Fleming family member and a Lloyd family member. Now that connection, it's in another part of the document, I haven't got it in front of me, links to Berwick, and the research around Berwick companies links to the hunting of children connected to Rupert Lowe and Rupert Lowe links into criminal firearms companies. And then from those criminal firearms companies in this area, it was the Lord of Berwick or something like that, was one of these people in this marriage, Fleming and a Lloyd. I suspect that made the link to Lloyd's Bank and the Flemings in the blood of the children, the torturing and the laundering, and how that all connects in with the hunting. When you go in from Rupert Lowe, very quickly you hit an organisation which is on the incorporation document that links to my school, my former school, which then links to the Knights Templar side of things. So we then have this link to organ harvesting, etc., via the Flemings, with a select number of people possibly living considerably longer than the rest of humanity by the harvesting of the innocents due to the fear of death. Nigel Cyprian Bridge, the judge of the IRA Birmingham 6 trial, was the last Treasury devil to try a case from private practice whilst in office, and the research from him links directly to Jardine Lloyd's Underwriting Agents Limited, that was incorporated in 1969, the same year that Charles became the Prince of Wales. Let me just read that to you again. Nigel Cyprian Bridge, the judge for the IRA Birmingham 6 trial. Remember, this makes a links obviously to Ireland again. Was the last Treasury devil, that's the name of it, Treasury devil, to try a case from private practice whilst in office. And the research from him elsewhere in my document links directly to Jardine Lloyd's Underwriting Agents Limited. It was incorporated in 1969, the same year that Charles became the fake Prince of Wales. And it has a registered address as BDO LLP, making immediate critical connections through the research to temple addresses and the black nobility families of the Vatican. Research shows that Jardine Fleming, a company, was a Hong Kong-based investment bank founded in 1970, the year between Charles becoming the Prince of Wales and the World Economic Forum beginning, as a joint venture between Jardine Matheson and Robert Fleming and Co. It was acquired by JP Morgan Chase in 2000. Jardine Matheson Holdings Limited, also known as Jardines, is a Hong Kong-based Bermuda domicile and British-founded multinational conglomerate. It has a primary listing on the London Stock Exchange and secondary listing on the Singapore Exchange. We need to get this to China, everyone. If there's anyone in China on here, or you speak Chinese or you are Chinese, please, you need to get this to China. They need to be aware of this as well. This needs to go worldwide. There's only 150 people on here. It's not going to be enough, but they're suppressing me, and half are going to be compromised, I would have thought. Well, you're all going to be deceived. Even those of you compromised listening to this, you really need to get behind this. And Bermuda Stock Exchange. The majority of its business interests are in Asia, and its subsidiaries include Jardine Pacific, Jardine Motors, Hong Kong Land, Jardine Strategic Holdings, DFI Retail Group, Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group, Jardine Cycle and Carriage, and Astra International. It's interesting. Astra is the same. Astra Holdings is the company that acquired the main currency producer for the world. That's bound to be related. First time it came off the London Stock Exchange in in July 2025, since 1947 when the Doomsday Clock began. Jardines, this is important, Jardines was one of the original Hong Kong trading houses, or Hongs, that date back to Imperial China. So look at this now. We're talking about centuries old international drug trafficking, potentially, well, not international, but starting with the drug trade, and how this is. You can see how this has got to where we are through the, you know, in relation to the drug element of this. But obviously, the blood side of it will go back and run alongside this. So Imperial China, this goes back to. The company is controlled by the Keswick family, who are descendants of co-founder William Jardine's older sister, Jean Johnson. The Keswick family are a business dynasty of Scottish origin, associated with the Far East region since 1855, and particularly the conglomerate Jardine Matheson and other Matheson companies. The Keswick family have at some time been closely associated with the ownership or management of the HSBC, the Indochina Steam Navigation Company Limited, the Canton Insurance Office Limited. Now this is relevant because Canton companies link closely to David Icke and apparent drug trafficking companies around David Icke. And right there you have the Hackler International Advisory Board company, which is an intelligence connected company to the Russian government, to the royal family, back in with the Flemings. We have links to, I'm not going to go, anyway, one of the 5th generation family members is Adam Keswick. Keswick, born 1973, son of Chips, joined the board in April 2007. He is chief executive of Jardine Pacific and Jardine Pacific and Jardine Motors. After joining the group in 2001, the year of the World Trade Center disaster, from N.M. Rothschilds and Son. All right, he held positions within Group Treasury and Jardine Pacific. The Rothschilds are hugely implicated in the criminal network and the apparent crimes against humanity. And now we have a confirmation of the research. This is confirmation of the link to the international drug trade in all of this. Mr. Keswick was appointed Group Strategy Director of Jardine Cycle and Carriage in 2003 and was Group Managing Director from 2005 to 2007. He's also a Director of Jardine Matheson Limited. Oh. Right, Company's House shows that Jardine Fleming and Partners Limited had been incorporated in February 2020. 2 months after the start of the COVID deception. Charles Russell Solicitors is on the incorporation document, supporting a possible link to the international opium supply regarding Russell and Company as shown elsewhere. Now please remember everybody, the Flemings are connected to religious establishments. All right? They're now confirmed as being linked to international opium supply and the blood of the children, it seems from the research, the crimes, torture and murder of children, the blood, the organ harvesting, the international conflicts linked to Christian establishments. Let that just sink in, everybody. It's an infiltration. We know that because love thy neighbour. Like an absolute mockery of the Creator. Ian Charles Hannon connects Jardine Fleming and Partners Limited to companies including JP Morgan Casanova Holdings that have been incorporated as Rocket Jasper Public Limited Company in February 2001 on the lead up to the World Trade Center deception, and it dissolved in 2023 as I escalated the exposure. Remember, this is Jardine Fleming Company. It has Mazars as its registered address, linking to Epstein, to the Mazzini evidence, to Donald Trump, to the Royals. Mazars links refers to Mazzini, everybody. The Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini. Again, straight away from this. Earthquake companies linking into that. It's a criminal company as well, having been incorporated with the same companies as Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. Again, where my investigation began. The Goldsmiths Foundation had already been linked directly in my research to JP Morgan Casanova Service Company. Remember, this is JP Morgan. We're talking about JP Morgan, what's it called? connects Jardine Fleming and Partners Limited to JP Morgan Casanova Holdings. Okay, this is the company we're talking about here. The Goldsmith Foundation has already been linked directly to JP Morgan Casanova Service Company. And an article regarding JP Casanova links to Tesco and Child Traffic Club. Literally a company called Child Traffic Club, everybody. Connected into this. You're talking practically immediately now, these connections are made. Linking in with the international drug trafficking trade. This is the most critical time in all of history. Right now, with this evidence, we need to get this out to the world and we need to stop this. Sorry, I'm just trying to find where I was. Mark Stephen Allen is in the People record and connects JP Morgan Casanova Holdings to 26 predominantly JP Morgan or Bear Stearns companies, linking straight to Jeffrey Epstein and to Crosby Sterling Holdings Limited that has already been connected directly to Valentine Fleming and the Iona prophecy of the end of the world, and quickly to the death of Princess Diana, Michael Jackson, Stuart Lubbock, and much more as shown elsewhere. Allen also connects to JPM nominees. And this is the bit that's blown my mind, okay? JPM nominees. JPM nominees has already been connected directly to Bournemouth Town Centre bid. And from that is the office straight there where I worked in the police as a beat bobby for a particular area of Bournemouth. That is a security office that it goes to right where I was working. Straight from this. Even though there's over 5 million registered companies. JPM nominees that links to where I worked also connects to Michelle Catherine Young, whom I suspect is Michelle Young in the research of Scott Young's death, linking to where they're trying to make it seem that 13 other deaths or 12 other deaths and his are linked to the Russian government. It's a deception. This is a collaborative deception. They had to do that, or they didn't have to, but they did. Michelle Young, you need to come out with the truth. It's all being exposed. Michelle Young was sat next to Gordon Bowden at a ITNJ, which is the International Tribunal Courts of Natural Justice, when Gordon Bowden was coming out trying to talk about the international government fraud that he was identifying through Michelle's case. And she was sat next to him. That conference was set up by Sasha Stone, who links to the black nobility family and to the blood of the tortured children. Michelle told me he was murdered. After I said, oh, were you sat next to Gordon Bowden? She didn't tell me that. I had to identify that myself. That's not a coincidence that I identified that, everybody. That I managed to find that video, saw her, sat next to her, and she was contacting me around that time. And I called her out on it. And she basically said that he had been murdered. Trying to scare me, it seems, or test me. I suspect this is her. Linking to the office that I worked at, linking to the Flemings, linking to the Iona prophecy, linking to the blood of the children, the international drug trafficking. Michelle, you need to shout from the top of your voice to everybody what's going on, the truth. You need to email me with the truth, or you need to take yourself out of the equation, Michelle. We cannot allow the end of creation and the threat to children to take place anymore. Jane Earl connects JP Morgan Casanova Holdings, the company we were looking at earlier, to 246 companies, including various BBC companies, making critical links to the Royals, De Reyes, the Vatican, the death of Jill Daniel, and major areas of the criminal network. Richard Delridge connects JP Morgan Casanova Holdings to 16 companies, including various HSBC companies. Remember, we've already mentioned the HSBC companies in that research of the drug trafficking linking to Jardine. They also link to the Wordsworth Trust, to Gallagher Group Limited, and critically, Balfour BT PLC, which links to the research of the Balfour Declaration and the formation of Israel. They also connect to Canada Square Operations Limited, that will be relating to the connection of Qatar to Sherborne, linking to the Israel attacks of 2023 and to the Manchester Arena bombing. They also connect directly, these are all connected to him, the National Westminster Bank Public Limited Company. This is the same company on the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce company that features in the research of the death of Madeleine McCann and links almost immediately to the skin company, or the Harry Shoes company, sorry, via JP Morgan Limited, and the evidence of Harry wearing wearing Madeleine McCann's skin, it seems, from the research at around the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. And right there you have from that company we've just looked at there, you have the Italian earthquake company, linking in with CERN, linking in with everything. I think, was that anything else? There's other stuff. I've got evidence now, so in relation to my situation with my properties, the evidence is fairly conclusive that they have positioned the tenant in their property as part of the attempt to shut me down financially. So that is Steve Price is the name of that tenant. He's a property developer living in Christchurch in the property that I own half of, or should do, but they've stolen it from me, and it looks as though he's positioned. He is now linked via his wife's employment to the blood of the children. It's Stephen Price, whose father was Graham Price, who supposedly committed suicide and was in Christchurch Police in 2008. And that is no coincidence, because that is the same year that the Michael Todd died, followed by Neil Monroe of Dorset Police, which I mentioned earlier, tying in with the research in all of what I've just been speaking about. So I'm going to finish up now. I'm not going to go into any comments because I'm tired and it's getting late, and I've done a lot of talking for nearly 4 hours. But I just want to say, look, everybody, I'm clearly important in all of this for what I didn't ask to be, all right, but I'm clearly at the center of all of this. I think there's a reason, obviously now, that my favorite movie was Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Okay, I think that's pretty obvious what this is all starting to lead towards now. So these people, looking at my evidence, and the way out of this for all of humanity is the truth. Now, I can't force people to say the truth, but I think they know that's what they've got to do, but they can't do it. Now, I think for those that are not going to disclose the truth and are going to continue with this, there's a reason Terminator 2 Judgment Day is my favorite movie. Okay, and I think everything is at stake for humanity in this, particularly those that are involved in this, and potentially those that are just carrying on knowing about this without actually doing anything and addressing it. Because if you're asked a question, well, is it the right thing to do nothing if you believe the blood of children are being facilitated by you being part of the system and contributing, then of course the answer is wrong. It's no, you're not doing the right thing. The only right answer is that we all have to be doing something about this. We all have to stop complying. We have to stop worrying about the consequences of not complying. You know, I could pay, now I'm being forced to make a decision to pay my wife another £1,800 to stop them taking everything from me. I'm not going to pay any more money to this, all right? And I will take the chance of me losing absolutely everything, because it's the only right thing for me to do, because I can't contribute to the blood of tortured children. Now, you all need to be willing to take that risk, because if you're not, and you're going to carry on, you're part of the issue, and be prepared to face a judgment. I think there's going to be, you know, whether that's through a natural judgment, whether that's the judgment through the truth that comes out, and it'll be a consequence for that truth, or the lack of truth, shall we say. You know, if those people that are involved in this, the Freemasons, continue to remain silent, I absolutely believe there's going to be eternal consequences for these people. Eternal consequences. Whether that is after their death, whether that is when they commit suicide, or whatever, I don't know. But I do not believe that this is going to pass without serious consequences spiritually to those that remain silent. So you need to make a choice, everybody. Everybody has to make a choice now moving forward in this. Now, there's only 148 people on here. I'm not getting through to enough people. This is why the document is critical. We are at the end of this time. It's almost guaranteed. The evidence is so overwhelming. That's only a small part of what I've acquired here. For whatever reason, I'm not being stopped. Okay, they're not shutting everything down. They're leaving my YouTube on for whatever reason. I'm still able to survive. I'm still able to walk around. So for whatever reason, they either can't touch me, or they don't feel as though they can, or someone's protecting me in all of this, or something, or the creator, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going on a little bit here, but the point I'm trying to make is you all need to play your part in this. You cannot expect this to just go away and for somebody else to resolve it for you. You need to be doing the right thing. I'm trying to do the right thing every day. I'm trying to think of what I should be doing in this. I'm so close to just trying to make an arrest myself and face the consequences of whatever that may be. But then I'm trying to think tactically of my involvement and what that would need to be to resolve this, and to be part of a new system or a new method in place to safeguard the children and creation. So I'm trying to think of, you know, all options tactically in this. Anyway, I'm getting tired. It's a lot of talking I've done, but thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Please verify the evidence if you don't believe it. The document I'm hoping to get sent out very soon, and then I'll decide what to do after that. But it's critical, this document, and you'll have all of that stuff in it on the next one. So thanks very much, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Don't fear. Stand in truth, and do not fear whatever it is that's coming. Just play your part to try and prevent it if you can. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.